For the branding and marketing, that's fairly obvious. We're going to get a lot of data to understand who our audience is, where they're coming from, how they consume media, when they consume media. All that data we can then use to better promote the town and have some of our larger venues better promote themselves. And for the best practices, what we're going to do is we're going to take that, and ultimately we'll use that to rewrite and update our economic development chapter of our master plan, which hasn't been updated since 2011, so it's about time for that update. So that's our first big point that I want to make for 2019. My second point is that we did quite a lot to support residents, visitors, and tourists in Sturbridge. So we need to differentiate these carefully. Residents and visitors, by my perspective and perspective of MOT, Mass Office of Travel and Tourism, those are people who are within a 50-mile radius of Sturbridge or live here. So those are people that we're really, are probably going to come to Sturbridge maybe just for dinner or just to drive through, or again, live here. So for them, we've been really pushing a lot of community events. Obviously, the Special Events Committee has done events like the bonfire, which we've done twice within the past year and a half. We'll do more of those. We're going to try to do those twice annually. We've done road races, the most recent of which was the Home of the Brave. Farmers Market, which has been a runaway success, and of which you're going to be accepting a donation from later. So we've been doing a lot to try to build that community spirit in Sturbridge, and I think we've been fairly successful in that area. For the tourists, the STA has been funding consistently those events that are bringing in money to Sturbridge for those people who are coming in from far away for conferences, for weddings, for any event in town. So we've been supporting a number of existing events like the Harvest Fest, as well as new events like we had a regional dog show that brought in, I think it was like several hundred room nights to Sturbridge, and actually brought about $30,000 to one of our hotels. So they were able to help fund that event and bring that revenue to Sturbridge. So we're very proud of what we've been doing, and we're doing new initiatives like the Business of the Year program, which we're now accepting nominations for. So if you haven't, I encourage you and everyone watching to nominate a business for that award. The third and final point that I wanted to make is that we are here to help business leaders. I've said this every time I come before you. I encourage you, if you being the Board of Selectmen and you being anyone watching, business leaders especially, if you are having successes, if you're having difficulties, if you are curious about some state programs or local programs or federal programs, contact my office. We're here to help you. The town administrator and I can attest, we've been working quite consistently with businesses throughout the year. We've been working with everything from businesses who are expanding, like Sturbridge Metallurgical, which is looking to add 12,000 square feet to their facility and who are currently pursuing a TIF under the town, to other businesses in town that have been struggling. And the town administrator and I have met with those businesses to try to offer aid and support where possible, even if it's just being there and letting them know we're here to support you through this tough time. So again, I encourage everyone to just communicate with us and do what we can to support businesses here in town. For next year, we're going to implement a lot of these programs that we've been trying to, or a lot of the findings that we get from these reports. We're going to work on that master plan. We're going to try to implement some new programs like the facade improvement program, which I just applied under Betterment for as that'd be a new program for the town, as well as trying to restart some old ones like the business visitation programs, which some of you participated in a few years back. So again, I don't want to rehash everything in my report, but I am happy to answer any questions you have about that or any of the programs we're working on or anything we're looking to do next year.
Okay, I do want to say the report is thorough and you've been busy. Okay, any questions or comments from the board?
I just have
Mary?
a comment. I know Kevin's, the majority of his time is spent with the Sturbridge Tourist Association, but I want to say as a staff, he's the staff support for the Special Events Committee, and as you know, I'm the representative, and he's done a great job because everybody wants more activities, but there's a lot of planning that goes into any event, and Annie and Racioli and Kevin have been very instrumental in getting a lot of our activities off the ground, you know, from the advertising to getting the volunteers that are necessary. So I just wanted to give him a shout out for that, because I don't think everybody realizes that he's also staff for special events, not just the Sturbridge Tourist Association. And then my only other comment is, I think it's great that you're going to do a Business of the Year to kind of create some healthy competition among businesses and add a little spirit. I mean, sure, there'll be a little bit of, how come that business won? But I think that's good.
Of course, and there are different categories.
Shop, eat, play, and stay.
Yeah, to just say, we have shop, eat, stay, play, so I think right now we have somewhere in the realm of 70 different nominations, so there are a bunch of repeats in there. So we're getting some good feedback, and I encourage people to nominate their favorite businesses in town so that we can recognize them as Business of the Year. They will also get a free membership paid for by the Sturbridge Tourist Association to Discover Central Massachusetts, which helps them add, and then they'll get a grant to do some advertisements for their business. So they're not just getting the recognition, they're getting actual tangible rewards for their efforts.
And is the STA is it going to be the amount of nominations that a business got in terms of who wins, or is the STA going to vote?
The STA is going to vote. It's based on the
Okay.
They ask for nominations, and they're going to review it in that way.
Okay, anything else from the board? Mike?
I just wanted to compliment you and let you know that I think this year focusing on economic development was a very, very good plan. Sturbridge is very positive towards economic development, and I really think that your department is crucial to the future of our town, and I really appreciate what you've been doing.
Thank you, sir.
Okay. Thank you, Kevin.
Thank you, guys.
Have a good night.
Good night, everyone.
Okay, Mr. Jackson? Good evening.
So we have October and November monthly reports, and I'll just give you the stuff that's not routine. And Clark Road, we finished all of the aprons and backing up the curbs and all of that on Clark Road. We finished paving Wallace and Shepherd and Willard and all the aprons on those roads. And we actually started doing our snow and ice preparation. And then in November, we actually did a lot of help with the library addition. We did all the moving of furniture, the shelving, and put it all back together at the end. And in November, it was mostly leaves and prepping for snow and ice. And then we did send, as Mike likes, we sent our guys for snow and ice in October, training and truck calibration, which is working out very well, I might say. And then this month, we sent April for some Combis training. Combis is a procurement website through the state. We can get all our state contracts through Combis, and it's kind of a very non-user-friendly program. And April went,
To say the least.
and April went with Robin to Boston for a day and did some training on that. And let's see, we finished all the line painting, and we're heavy into snow and ice.
Which will be reported next month.
Yeah, which we reported next month. You'll see it.
Complaints.
You'll see it real time.
Yeah, did you get, I know it'll be in the report next month, but did you get any complaints on the past 2 days?
Nothing crazy. A few mailboxes got hit. Little snow in the wrong spot here and there. But other than that, it's pretty much routine.
There was a lot of positive
Yes,
comments
there was a lot
out
of positive
there.
feedback, which is very good, and I spread it all to the guys, because they've really taken the training to heart, which is great to see.
Yeah.
And they're almost skimping to the point, but that's
Yeah.
good. That's what I was
No,
hoping for.
they all did a good job.
They
Everyone
understand the
appreciates
concepts,
it.
and they're putting them in place, so it's
Yeah.
working out really well.
Okay, that's good. Anything else for us, or?
No, I think I'm good.
Okay, board?
How did the straight salt work out for you? It looked
Perfect.
like it would, yeah, it looked
Yeah,
like it was
perfect.
really.
And just for a little example how that works is, say you need, this is just for words, how would I say, an example. Say you need 100 pounds of salt and sand to do a lane mile. All we've done is we've taken out 66 pounds of sand. Say it's the 1 to 3 mix, so you get 33 pounds of salt, 66 pounds of sand. We've eliminated the 66 pounds of sand, and then we've dialed it down, so we're only dropping a very, very minimal amount of salt. So we're not using any more salt, and I've already said that a few
Yeah.
times. Because people think now that
Oh,
we're
it's
using
all-
all salt, we're just throwing it out there. But we're not. We're using very minimal, because it spreads. Sand sits, you need to cover the whole lane with sand. With salt, you put it mostly towards the middle of the road. It flows down, because the road has a crown on it, and it works great, and it's definitely the way to go.
Good. Anybody else?
Yeah, as far as I see you've done additional training. When do we do our annual bids for materials and? do we
This
do
year,
it-
we did them like in March,
Okay,
yeah.
yeah. And you do them from July to?
July to July, yeah.
To July, so if you have a change of contractors in the middle of the construction season, is that awkward, or?
No, actually not, because it could be. I could see where you're going with that. It could be, but I
Yeah.
wouldn't schedule something in mid-June if I knew
Yeah.
I was going to be changing contractors in July.
Contractors and
'cause
stuff like
Like you
that.
said, there's no guarantee that I'll get the same contractor.
Yeah.
But I can see where you're going with that, yeah, so
Yeah, it's,
watch out for that.
yeah, it's just, I'm thinking as a policy, it might be good to schedule the annual bid for more like a calendar year or something, so that your entire construction season is set by,
Yeah.
certain,
Yeah.
the same vendors
That's
for
right.
that construction
Concept, yeah.
season.
I'll look at that, because
So, in the future, this is just a future policy type thing, whether or not you want to adopt that or not, just something thrown out there to consider.
Okay, anything else?
No?
Okay, thank you, Butch.
Okay, good enough.
Rest up.
Are we going to see people before Christmas?
Yes, we have a meeting on the 16th. I know, I have to.
I was going to wish you a Merry Christmas. I know we celebrate Christmas and not Hanukkah, but we're going to see people.
No, that dawned
just
on me
changed that.
under announcements.
Well, I don't know if you'll be here at
It
that
doesn't
meeting.
make sense
Okay.
to cut it off in the middle of the construction.
No, but we'll see them around.
Okay,
All right, Butch, Merry Christmas.
there you go.
I see Butch everywhere. Okay, next we have Town Administrator's Report. Jeff?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Just one thing this evening, at the last meeting, we heard a report from a resident about some lots up on New Boston Road that were under construction for new homes and some excessive excavation that was taking place. We did look into the stormwater issue that Selectman Supranat brought up. They were in compliance with their stormwater regulations. The map that's on the dais this evening is the map of the lots. These were A&R lots that the town had auctioned off a couple years ago. So that area that's marked with a rectangle or a square is the area that he was excavating. He is finished excavating. He's not hauling any more material. He's graded the lot for the new home. So the truck issue is over.
I assume you told the resident
Yes,
who was
I
concerned.
had
Is she-
conversations with.
Oh, she's here
Yeah.
today.
So,
I have a lot to say to that.
Citizens Forum, right?
You'll have to wait to Citizens Forum at the end of the meeting for that. This is just under Town Administrator's update. Okay?
most of the traffic, there was some driveway cuts off New Boston Road, but on the very far end, on the right edge of that paper, is a private lane. A
Yeah.
lot of the access came from there. The one issue we did have, or actually, there were calls to the police about the trucks being on New Boston Road. The police did respond a couple times and told them, get off the road, which he did. And they were tracking some dirt off of the private road up onto the road, and they had to put track pads down and clean that up. So there were complaints and there were things that were responded to.
Taken, okay.
No
Yeah.
tickets, just, he
Yeah,
he
that-
fixed whatever was broken and
on
moved on.
Lane
So-
Road. Okay.
So you checked out that they do in fact have an EPA stormwater permit?
They didn't need one. We've looked into that, and the EPA people weren't convinced he needed one, but he applied for one anyway.
He did apply for one?
He's been dealing with EPA, and he went ahead and submitted it, but the EPA wasn't even convinced he needed it. Because he's not discharging anything.
No, it's a construction permit. If you're disturbing more than a certain
Right,
area,
right.
you need a stormwater permit. It's not a discharge permit. It's a.
I understand, but he's been dealing with the feds. Even the Conservation Commission reached out to their contacts at EPA, and they weren't convinced he needed that permit for what he was doing, which was ultimately the construction of a single-family home. Actually, two of them, one on each lot.
Well, there's several lots here that were,
Well, only that area that's marked in the rectangle is where he was digging, was the nature of the excavation issue. Some of the lots already have houses on them, some of them weren't subject to the excavation.
but overall, over several years, there's been more than 5 acres of land disturbed, so you'd need an ongoing stormwater permit to do that.
Under our regulations, the construction of a single-family home,
He didn't do it all at once.
didn't do it all at once.
Well, it
And these
doesn't, I don't think it matters. If you're disturbing a certain amount of land, if it-
I understand what you're saying, but under the way our regulations have been enforced in the past, on these type of projects, a single-family home on an A&R lot, when you pull the building permit, you'll have to look at the stormwater regs, but as an overall plan, it's not considered one development. They're separate lots.
under state regulations, it is.
Well, I don't think we should argue the point here. But, Mike, can you get something in writing on that? And
We looked at the state regs, we looked at the town regs, we looked at every regulation there was. This is one of those unique circumstances where everything was not applicable to what he was doing. It's a single-family home construction.
Okay.
I guess.
Well,
But I mean, you know,
I'll be happy to talk to you offline about it, and,
Okay,
yeah.
Now, did he
Mary?
have,
excuse me, ma'am, please.
yeah.
you know,
Mary?
I just want to piggyback on something you said. You know, when you kept indicating, well, that's a loophole in our bylaw, it's a loophole in our bylaw. I don't know what the loophole is, but maybe at special town meeting, we can close it. Because I think Chase inquired, is there a certain amount of time that we require you to excavate? Or does it, because the resident in question said it went on for a long time, right? So maybe we need to address it in a bylaw.
I certainly understand.
I don't know how, was it a year that he was excavating, and 2 years?
Wait a minute,
So we don't know,
No, I know,
but
but Mary,
I'm just-
can we, because we're now getting
Okay, I
back
know,
and
but-
forth, and it's not a public hearing, so
Okay.
the lady will have to
I'll be
wait
happy
until...
Requesting that we.
I'll be happy to bring back some proposed
That's what I
amendments,
Amendments.
but I don't think we'd be ready for special town
No.
meeting.
Okay, but at
Because
some
This is
point.
really going to impact single-family home construction.
period.
Right, but I do think that the resident who came forward at Citizens Forum had legitimate concerns, given the length of time of the excavation, if she is indeed correct with the length of time. So I think we should, as a board, address it at some point.
Sure. That's all I have this evening.
Oh, okay. So, action items. Okay, we have a request to accept the resignation of part-time firefighter / EMT Justin Pike. He's a full-time firefighter in Worcester. Okay, he says, "I am writing you this email to tell you that I will be resigning from the position of part-time firefighter / EMTB. At this point in my life, I do not have the time to pick up shifts or make training. It was a pleasure working with everyone at Sturbridge Fire. The men and women were top-notch. I have learned a lot of valuable skills, both on and off the job, from the personnel at SVD that I will carry with me through the rest of my career and for the rest of my life. Thank you for giving me the opportunity to be part of the Sturbridge Fire family. Sincerely, Justin Pike." Is there a motion to accept the resignation?
Second.
Okay, all in favor? Okay, 4-0. Mary's out of the room. Okay, next, we have a request to concur with the appointment of Jennifer Babcock as Senior Center Program Assistant for the Council on Aging, and Jennifer is here. Good evening. Okay, could you put the mic just a little bit in front of you, please, and just give a quick synopsis of why you want to do this and what you're going to do. It's for the audience at home.
Hi, everyone. I'm Jennifer. I've lived in Sturbridge since 2003. I've been a stay-at-home mom for 11 years. I have decided to re-enter the workforce, and my background has been in education. I was an elementary school teacher for 13 years. I have decided that at this point in my life, I am looking for something part-time, but something that is meaningful. And seeing this position open as an assistant program director is very appealing. I find that for part-time work, it would be really rewarding. I'm going through some own things in my life that are personal that have to do with aging family members. My parents just moved to Sturbridge in the last year and a half. I'm learning a lot about things that happen at certain points in our life. I think I'd be a great addition to the staff, and I really look forward to learning more.
Okay, thank you. Any questions from the board?
There's no doubt after being a stay-at-home mom, you can handle.
And no doubt you want to get out.
That's right.
Okay, somebody willing to make a motion for the appointment?
Second.
Okay,
No.
Jennifer Babcock.
Program assistant position, 15-hour week, 15 hours per week, starting salary of $17.35 an hour.
Okay, is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor? Okay, congratulations.
Thank you. That was my first job interview in about 30 years, so
You did well.
thank you very much.
Thank you. Okay. Okay, next we have a request to accept a proposal from BH&A for a feasibility study / concept plan for the renovation to or construction of a new Council on Aging building. Jeff?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Town staff has been working with the Senior Center Study Committee to develop, and we developed an RFP and interviewed 7 firms to conduct a feasibility study and develop a cost estimate for 3 separate scenarios related to the senior center. One would be to renovate the existing building to meet the needs identified in the needs assessment that was completed a couple years ago. And the other 2 opportunities or options are to put it on 70 Cedar Street as a brand-new building, or to put it on the Shepherd parcel as a brand-new building. And all of those would include a turnkey number for construction and occupancy of a building. So the review of the existing building is very complex and very complete. Mechanical, electrical, roofing, structural, everything will be looked at that existing building, what it can do, what it can't do, and including a site survey. I know there's some parking we want to add, but we need a survey to make sure we're not going over the boundary lines. So the survey will come in handy if we want to do some parking up front. And then on the other 2 parcels, the initial review will be done by a GIS analysis. And then if we need a detailed survey, that's provided for in the total cost of the project. So staff would recommend going forward, and then we can put the amount of the funds necessary on the special town meeting. And that's basically why the town meeting is so late. We've been waiting to get this number for the town meeting.
Okay, questions from the board? Priscilla?
Is Shepherd parcel a viable opportunity for development on that road, or is conservation going to block that too?
I've had a preliminary conversation with the chair. He reminded me that they supported the ball fields at conservation. And that'll have to be a conversation we have. I think the first step is to find out if it's viable to be used for this purpose.
It'll need sewer and water, correct?
We can develop it without sewer and water. You're going to have to. because it was available.
I understand that, that's why I'm asking that question, because, I mean, we just went through this, and if we're gonna revisit, if this is like something that's never gonna happen, I agree totally, we do need to do something for the senior center. New or renovate, I have no argument with that. I just don't wanna waste time and money on an area that has no potential for them. That's all, that's my only point. I want something for them, either way, but I don't wanna waste time and money, because the money can go towards it in another way. That's just where I'm coming from. So Shepherd is like a non-existent potential. I'd rather put my money somewhere else on this.
I don't know that it's a non-existent potential. I think from a development point of view, from a siting point of view, it makes a lot of sense.
Oh, I agree totally.
Right.
I think it's an ideal location,
Right.
but I know the hurdles it's going to face.
And I don't disagree with that, but I think having, and if this plan does prove that that is a preferred spot, I think that helps us overcome some of those hurdles when we have those conversations with the community, with the Conservation Commission, and other parties that would be interested in the outcomes.
Well, Priscilla, the feeling was, it's best to have choices.
Oh, I agree.
No,
I
and-
agree. I just don't want a choice that's never going to be. That's what, I totally agree in choices.
Yeah, but the other choice may never come to be too. That's got its own set of hurdles that would have to be overcome.
Right, that's why I didn't know
That's
if
why,
there was
that's
somewhere
why
else.
the committee had voted for the option 3. The 70 Cedar Street
Right.
and Shepherd Parcel, and then the present building.
I agree, it has a tremendous set of hurdles. I don't know where else we put it.
I mean, as far as location, I think it's ideal.
Right.
For so many reasons. I'm not optimistic that it'll happen there, for many reasons,
I understand.
but that's my argument to that. I want the money to go to them, but I want it to go where it'll be viable and not like a shot in the dark.
Well, regardless, from this study, you'll get a very detailed report on the existing building. So
Right.
you'll
Which
have
we
that
got
no matter what.
Yeah. We did get a report on the building, too.
Just a needs assessment.
Yeah.
Needs
Yeah.
assessment. This will
Yeah.
be one you could turn over to an architect because it's going to have mechanical, electrical, roof, the structural, everything about that building will be known. Any hazardous materials and so forth. So then you look at what you're going to spend on the other 2 sites, and we hope that during an initial review, one of those 2 sites, either 70 or Shepherd, becomes an unfeasible site for construction purposes, right? You've got challenges on both with endangered species and with wetlands.
It's always
and so-
endangered species here.
Yeah,
Always.
yeah.
Yeah.
So-
If not, we'll bring it in.
We'll find them, but anyway.
But I totally understand what you're saying. But I think we're going to be challenged anywhere to try to move this building because it's just the nature of,
I just wanted it out there.
I understand.
Yeah.
I do.
No, you're not the only one that feels that way, too.
I'm sure
but-
of that.
But
Yeah.
this is what the committee
Yeah.
suggested and voted for.
Yeah,
Mike?
I am going to vote against this because I know, other firms that had proposed on this, and I think there's at least 1 or 2 other firms that would have been a better choice than
Well,
this. So
Mike.
that's why I'm going to vote against it.
Yeah, but
I just
That-
disagree with the
that's your
Selectmen committee.
opinion. There was a committee,
Yeah.
duly appointed to make the decision, but that's your prerogative. You can
Yeah,
vote
I
yea
mean,
or nay.
I do have a bit of
Well, I don't disagree. There was
expertise, and I'm
there was one
going
or-
to vote against it because I don't.
there was
think
1 or
it's-
2 other
Yeah.
companies that I would have preferred, but
Yeah.
the committee
Well,
voted this one, so I
feel
support the
strongly
committee.
enough about this that I'm going.
Well, that's fine. It's a democracy.
Yep.
Okay, any?
Just the
Jason?
majority of this money would be going to review the current building. I'm reading the numbers here. It would be 19,000 for 70 Cedar and 14,200 for,
That's additional.
that's additional.
That's if we did the full site
Site
survey.
survey.
Right, but out of the majority of the money is to review.
Well, out of the initial review, 480 Main Street gets 26.8. You get 70 Cedar Street for 11.4, and you get 80, you get Shepherd for 11.4 as part of the initial review. And then just, there's another 22.3 that is shared amongst the three of them. So,
For all the studies listed above. Okay?
so probably if you
Yeah.
broke that up, Shepherd's costing you 20 grand before you get to the full survey.
So what we're looking for is 89,150?
I'd ask you to approve the whole amount. We do have
105?
Yeah, we have $16,000 left in that project account already, so we would only need 89 from town meeting, but we need the full cost of the proposal accepted by the board.
Oh, so we didn't we accept that 16 already through
know.
town meeting?
It's available, but we're asking you to apply
Apply
it to
it.
this contract.
Question, Mary?
No, I'm going to vote in favor, but I agree with a lot of what Priscilla said about Shepherd parcel, but we won't know unless we do it. But, I mean, based on town meeting, we couldn't even get soccer fields with removable fence on the Shepherd parcel because the amount of conservation that was requested. So the thought of erecting a building, lifting the CR, et cetera, I think it's going to be met with a lot of resistance at town meeting. I'm just saying, and I'm glad that Cedar Street is on this as well, because I agree with Mary, it's nice to be given a choice, but I don't have a lot of hope for the Shepherd parcel to fly at town meeting personally.
Yeah, well, there's some people that...
I know, I'm just saying, I guess-
That don't have a lot of hope for the article period to pass, no matter what. I mean, there's been pros and cons on, should we spend money? No, we shouldn't, yes, we should.
But I mean, if the
So,
same people
yeah.
attend town meeting this time, that attended town meeting when we attempted to put a soccer field and a multi-purpose field there, I can't
Yeah.
imagine that it would fly, but,
Yeah, well, I know
One of the-
some
but we
of
do
the...
have to try, I
One of
agree.
the goals, one of the goals you gave me when I got here is to see about getting that CR lifted.
I understand,
And I
yes,
need a project
Two.
to sell.
right, I get it.
Convince the
I'm just
public,
trying
so-
to give you, like, a little
Well,
heads
it's-
up on
yeah.
on the
Oh,
kind of
I-
pushback.
Oh, he knows
we
it's
get.
not going to be
I
easy.
believe,
Okay.
I believe that the critical path is the town meeting on this
Yeah,
particular issue.
Correct.
Okay, well, I don't want to belabor this, but since Selectman Dowling has raised this too, how much is Shepherd costing us? Just Shepherd, the evaluation on
About
Shepherd?
$20,000.
God knows we've blown 20,000 on other things.
I mean, if the board doesn't want to review that, that's fine. I mean, I included Shepherd because I think it's the right spot. And you also gave me the task of pursuing active recreation, which I believe this fits that definition on that parcel. If you want to abandon this, that's entirely up to you, but I believed I was acting as part of one of the goals that you gave for me.
I don't argue that. I mean, I'm not arguing your goal at all. I'm just looking at the feasibility that Shepherd is even going to make it.
Yeah, but there's no guarantee on 70 Cedar Street either. There's no guarantee on any of them.
Piggybacking on what Selectman Dowling said about the town meeting and how the vote would go, would the town be more amenable if this bill were less and we looked at renovating the senior center and then had 70 Cedar Street? I'm not sure. I mean, I don't know. I hear what she said about how the vote went and the concern about it not passing for this too. And I think all that does is delay a very needed reconstruction or something for the seniors. There's no argument to that. I don't think anybody disagrees with that.
In the spring, when we brought this up, you all were very interested in a comparison
Yep,
of a new building
Yes.
and renovating the existing.
yes.
And that's what you'll get from this study.
Well, let me
Glad to
ask
get
this. Oh, I'm sorry, I want to interrupt.
No, I was,
Are these going to be presented as just one warrant article? Or
Yes.
Yes, the money,
It's
yeah.
the money is one?
Yeah, but there's a suggestion also that you could have more than one article. We did that when we did the Burgess
Correct.
School.
I,
In case
I
one
mean,
didn't pass, the other one.
yeah, I mean, that might be my preference, because I think more people would at a minimum support the study for the existing senior center. I think that would get more support, and I don't want to see that fall by the wayside because Shepherd is tied into this. And I think you're right, that's what we did for the Burgess School, and
I think that's a
it
good
kind of
idea.
makes sense to me to separate it.
I think that's a good point.
But it's just a suggestion. I mean, I'm going to vote in favor of it because I think we need to do it. But in terms of passing, I don't want to see us do nothing and have everything go down, where some people may approach us and say, well, you know what, we would have voted to have a feasibility
Yeah.
study for the existing senior center.
I think she's got a good point, at least we get something.
Oh, I don't disagree with that. So, well, why don't we just move on this one, and the closer it gets to town meeting, we can come up with another article going along those lines of thought, you know?
That's fine. We can
I mean-
develop multiple warrant articles, and you can pick which ones you would like
Right.
to put forward.
Because we have plenty of time. So would somebody make a motion then on to accept the proposal from BH and A? And I can't say that letter because I have Irish blood in me. Is it H or H?
I don't have any Irish blood, so I don't. Okay. I'll make a motion that we accept the proposal from BH and A for a feasibility study for a renovation or new senior center for an amount not to exceed $105,150.
Okay, is there a second?
Second.
Okay, all in favor? Okay, all opposed, 4-1. Okay. There,
It's
okay.
not that I'm opposed to a senior center study.
No, Mike, I certainly get your point.
Yeah.
Okay, let's see. Next, we need to set the date for the winter special town meeting. And Jeff is suggesting January 27th at 7 o'clock up at the high school. The town clerk and the town moderator are available, and the school is available. So does somebody want to make that motion?
So moved.
Okay, is there a second?
Second.
All in favor? Okay, 5-0. Okay, next we need to make appointment, the Board of Selectmen delegates to the Central Massachusetts Regional Planning Commission. Okay, we have 2 delegates. The first, we have 2. One's an alternate. They only need to be residents of the community, but normally we do have a Board of Selectmen member, and it had been Mike with the alternate Mary. You both still volunteering?
I'm willing to be the alternate again.
Yeah, I've been active for the last several years with CMRPC, and I think I'd like to continue for the next year.
Okay, and you both reside in Sturbridge?
Yes, I do.
Okay. Is there a motion then to appoint Mike as a delegate and Mary Dowling as the alternate?
So moved.
Second.
Okay, any discussion? All in favor?
I just have a discussion. I just want to thank Mike, because I think you go above and beyond as the representative on that regional planning committee.
Okay, now, Jean, you people will have to pick one, or did you pick one?
We have 2.
Yeah, but,
They've already been selected.
oh, okay, who do you have?
Michael Chisholm is the representative and Chris Bouchard is the alternate.
Okay, because the letter we got, they still have,
I know, odd.
I know, they talk about being behind times.
I emailed Janet Pierce.
Oh, okay, thank you. Figured you're always on top of it. Okay. Okay, next, we have listed a draft water and sewer rate study, review solicitation. Jeff, do we need to go through this whole process? Online tie-in bond every year does a statewide update, rates and everything.
Okay.
Have we looked at that?
No.
Oh, because if we look at that and going through the proposal, what it costs to run the plant and everything, I assume we do that every year ourselves. That's how we set the water and sewer rates.
Okay, we can set this aside and take a look at. what
I'd like to
timeline-
put it on hold and see what tie-in bonds rates are. Plus, we can talk to Veolia. They're the ones that come up with what's it going to cost.
They've reviewed this.
Oh.
Yeah.
Well, we should ask them then, what do they do for their money to come up with
The rates.
the rates and what it costs us for maintenance and all that,
All right,
I'd agree to somebody else doing my work too,
okay.
okay?
It was just listed as another
Oh,
goal to do, so.
Yeah, just to, the board has always wanted to look at what the rates are, but if we can do it the easiest way,
Okay.
does the board disagree? We can put that on hold until we look at the tie-in bond report. Okay. That's well-written, though. Did you write it?
No, we got it from West Boylston, and we added the water to it, or the sewer to it, one of those two.
It was a sewer rate study, we added our water to it.
Yeah.
Okay, next, we have a request for the appointment of Leslie Wong, Council on Aging Director, as elder bus representative. Leslie
She
left.
left with
Okay,
Jennifer.
yeah. Okay, does somebody want to make a motion?
So moved.
Second?
Any discussion? All in favor? Okay, 5-0. Okay, next we have a request to accept a $32 donation from We're All in This Together. And the donation is to go to the Sturbridge Farmers Market. Is there a motion?
So moved.
I should give you time, so. Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor? Okay, and we'll be sure to send them a thank you. Okay. Next, we have a review of the proposed host community agreements. Okay, now our town council is going to be here this evening, but she's ill. So, we can,
We'll make a list of any questions for
questions, right,
AP.
yep.
We stated that we would give each of the applicants 10 to 15 minutes to make a presentation, and then you all.
Okay, so in no particular order, only because it was typed up that way, 253 Organic LLC. Please, whatever seat. Thank you.
Thank you. Did I steal yours? I'm sorry.
Thank you.
Okay, and for the record, in the audience at home, could you please all introduce yourselves?
Christopher Gallant. Alan Shore.
Marshall Wagner.
Seth Rutherford.
Lee Olson.
Okay, now.
Thank you for having us tonight.
You're welcome.
Hello and good evening.
Good evening.
As you know, the legal marijuana industry is new to Massachusetts. It is highly regulated, and it should be, because it involves significant issues of public health and safety, and most towns do not have experience with it. Sturbridge should select a licensee that it can trust to best serve this community. 253 Organic is the best choice for a dispensary license in Sturbridge because we are the right people with the right approach, the right experience, and the right products. Sorry, I lost my spot. Sorry about that. Tonight, we are here to assure the town of Sturbridge that not only is the timing right for our second store, but we have the resources in place to successfully build, open, and operate a retail store in Sturbridge. We are fully committed to green building and operating practices, state-of-the-art security, cooperation with local law enforcement, prevention of diversion to minors, and hiring and training locals for good-paying jobs with good benefits. We are local Massachusetts residents with small-town values and have experience in small and seasonal communities, but we are big enough and experienced enough to get this done right. In 1 year, the Boston Business Journal listed us as the 22nd largest cannabis company in Massachusetts. In an industry where the majority of companies never open their doors and licenses are being swooped up by big box pot, Sturbridge needs to pick a company that is proven in this industry and has the capital, experience, and resources to succeed. At 253, we have all of those qualities, plus the accountability and personal connection you get with a local business owner. It is not uncommon to see companies take years, change ownership, and in some cases never open their doors to the public after being issued a host agreement, all while costing their host community thousands of dollars in lost tax revenue and services. Our experienced team has demonstrated success in designing, permitting, building, and opening a vertically integrated cultivation, manufacturing, and retail facility in a respectful and cooperative way in a small town. The team we have put together at 253 is second to none and has expertise in every aspect of this industry. In little over a year and a half from signing a host agreement in Montague, we are permitted, paid for, and operational with licenses in place. Our team has proven we can build and operate our own facilities and efficiently move through the CCC licensing process. We are fully self-financed with no debt and positive cash flow. Our Montague facility is complete, paid for, and operating. We are ready, willing, and able to put all of our efforts into Sturbridge. Currently, we do not have any open interest in any other municipalities. We just finished a 33,000 square foot facility in less than 1 year. Now all of our capital, resources, and energy can be put towards Sturbridge so we can effectively and efficiently execute our business plan. At 253, we are a conservative company, and we have chosen to concentrate on one construction project at a time. Multiple projects would limit our ability to efficiently execute, causing us to lose time, energy, and money. We see time and time again in our industry, companies getting overextended and overwhelmed with multiple construction projects and/or CCC licensing processes and not having the capital and resources to execute. At 253, we are our own supplier, not subject to market fluctuations and availability. This is a very important part of the equation to being successful and sustainable. Sturbridge needs to pick a company that can prove it will have an uninterrupted, guaranteed supply of products. At 253, we have chosen to invest in our infrastructure first to mitigate any product supply, any risk of product supply. I can confidently sit here tonight and guarantee the town of Sturbridge that we will have more than enough product to supply our stores, both in the short term and the long term, and at no point will 253 be held hostage to the wholesale market. Our first crop in Montague is expected in the middle to end of February, and we will be in full operation months before our Sturbridge store will open. Our Montague facility will produce more than enough flour, edibles, and concentrates for both our Montague and Sturbridge stores. Our proposed location is the right fit for our business and the community needs. 138 Main Street is not in the center of town or located by any school. schools. 138 Main Street has ample parking and retail space for us to provide an incredible experience to our customers without inconveniencing our neighbors or the community. We believe that 138 Main Street will be a perfect fit for 253 in Sturbridge. We have a unique bank of genetics. We plan on growing premium and targeted varieties that are not currently available on the wholesale market. 253 is a craft company that'll bring healthy and responsible products to the marketplace. We have the expertise and product knowledge to advise customers on the right product and dosage for their situation. We have developed educational booklets that describe in depth the rules and regulations for consumers that are available at no charge. At 253, we have the ability to open and be operational quickly with locally hired and trained employees. At 253, being a community partner is one of our top priorities. In Montague, before we even opened our doors, we helped bark mulch Main Street, Turners Falls, and worked with local schools to develop a Montague-specific educational handout. A few months ago, the town of Montague appointed me to the Airport Commission at the Turners Falls Airport. At our 253 Millers Falls location, we let the Franklin County Sheriff's Department use a 2-car garage at no charge to store beds and other equipment used to assist injured veterans. In conclusion, we have all the current licenses in place, sufficient capital for overhead and expansion, a highly experienced operating team, the resources to efficiently navigate through the CCC licensing process, and the construction team to execute in a timely fashion. 253 is by far the furthest along out of the 3 groups here tonight, and that's with CPC and HEAL having a 2-year head start. I'd like to repeat that, a 2-year head start, and yet we are the only company here tonight with an open retail store and an operating state-of-the-art indoor cultivation and manufacturing facility. We are the only group here tonight that has proven it has the ability to build, open, and operate a successful cannabis business. That is why we feel 253 Organic is the right choice for Sturbridge. I'd like to thank you for having us tonight. We believe that 138 Main Street will be a perfect fit for 253 and Sturbridge. We truly hope you choose 253 to partner with Sturbridge. We will not let you down. In fact, we intend to exceed your expectations. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Anything else you want to add? No. Okay, the board? Priscilla?
No, are our questions going to come from the host agreement or just from what he just said?
Either, or
Either.
both.
Okay.
While you're thinking of questions, I would like to emphasize that we are ready, willing, and yes, really as soon as possible, with a very experienced team that is quite enthusiastic about this town. It really has been from day one.
Okay. Maybe,
Okay, Priscilla?
yeah, I have it. Okay. On page 6, under product packaging and restrictions, the other 2 companies have put in a sentence about not providing brownies or cookies or ice cream. Would you be willing to add that to your agreement?
I'm sorry, not providing ice
Let
cream
me read it to you. There's a couple of, the other 2 have provided that further, in addition to the limitations on packaging and marijuana products, as you have set forth, which is, yours are all the same, the company agrees not to dispense desserts such as brownies, cookies, and ice cream at the facility. Are you willing to do that?
I think what we wrote is that we're going to comply with whatever the CCC rules are, but we do have a part of our manufacturing process is actually a kosher kitchen. We just got our kosher certificate, and we plan on having certain baked goods and certain candies. I don't think we're planning on having ice cream, so I'm sure we could say we don't plan on having ice cream.
But you would have brownies, cookies?
Well, I'm not sure if we'll have brownies per se, but we will have baked goods. I mean, are you concerned about cookies and brownies as such, or are you concerned more about baked goods holistically?
For children. I'm concerned for children.
We wouldn't let children into the facility.
I understand that, but it's just, I found it interesting that the other two facilities listed that.
Well, they
and
might
yet-
not have the capacity to make their own or manufacture their own product, and we have a very clean and, again, a kosher kitchen. So we would actually intend to sell edibles that we manufacture.
The regulations are very strict on all edibles. Nothing can be visible, child food packaging, so it falls into a category for all edibles.
Okay, yes, Mike, please. No, I forget too. It's for the audience at home.
Okay.
Okay, as far as traffic control, I do have one concern in your location. Traffic down 131 on any given day is hectic. How will you try to mitigate the residential roads that are going to be impacted by your facility?
I'm going to let Seth opine shortly, but I do think that we're going to be using an app so that we are aware, and we will only have appointments for the foreseeable future as to when people can come into our space.
Oh,
But I'm gonna
well,
let Seth-
may I, in light of that, because I asked this to someone else one time, too. I know you're going to go by appointments, but once the word is out that you're open, are you going to turn away somebody who just comes to your door?
Absolutely, if they don't have an appointment.
That's what an appointment's about. We're good to our word. We really are. We want to partner with you as a community, and the only way you can have a real partnership is on the basis of trust. So if we say we're going to do something and then we don't do it, the trust is broken. And we've all been in business at this table long enough to know that's the only thing we're really selling. So it's going to be trust with our employees, trust with each other, trust with the community in which we operate. So there's not one person sitting here that hasn't run a successful company, and some of us more than one. And we get that it's trust. So if we give you, one, we can put it in writing. But two, if we give you our word, that is our bond, because that's how we've become, all five of us, successful. And we're giving you our word.
And I can answer your
Yes,
question.
I'd like that answer, yes.
So you asked us this,
Residential road, because
Correct.
I'll be very direct. Off of 84, Farquhar Road will be the residential road immensely impacted.
okay. So you asked us this before, and I've done some research on this, okay? And I didn't have an answer about 3 months ago when you asked. So it'll be on our app, so we will have directions. We'll also have directions in the store. And so we will be instructing people on how to get there when they go on, they get our application, when they get their appointment, there'll be directions to our store. And I've also looked into the fact that Waze actually puts you through these back roads,
Yep.
but Google Maps does not. Google Maps sticks to the highways. So we are promoting everybody to only use Google Maps, and that's what we're going to be promoting on our website, and that, hopefully will keep people on the main roads.
Okay, but, yeah, and then you have no control on those who are going to use Waze anyway. I
No,
mean,
we
I
don't.
understand that. But if you encourage Google Maps, that might help. Okay. Would you be willing that if it didn't, and it's hypothetical, because we've seen horror shows on that road lately, would you be willing to go one step further and maybe try to impact Waze?
How do you impact
I don't
Waze?
know, I'm asking you. I don't know.
The answer would be,
Find the answer to that would be great.
the
Jeff?
answer would be yes.
Jeff?
I figured that.
We're already trying. I've reached out to Waze already, and we've got CMRPC seeing if DOT has contacts with Waze to try to get them to turn off that route. So I understand exactly what you're saying.
Thank you for your answer.
Yeah,
Thank you.
we'll do everything we can to mitigate the traffic issue, and if any of us can figure out how Waze works, you're a better person
We
than me.
we do know residents impacted momentarily, but that's about it. Yeah.
Okay. Anything else, Priscilla? Chase?
Yeah, I have a few things. I'd like to piggyback off a couple comments by Selectman Jimis. First of all, great presentation. Thank you for being interested in Sturbridge. My first question was about the edibles. The edible market is huge now, and I know you say you're going to brownies, but the other stores are going to sell chocolate bars and gummies, so it's regulated so heavily by the CCC now. There's no difference between a brownie and a chocolate bar, really. You know, it's just, you have bakery access that you're looking to do. I know it's just the edible market comes in candy flavors, am I right? I mean,
Yeah, see that's a distinction that really doesn't make much of a difference, because just assume that people that like brownies are going to equally like gummy bears and chocolate.
Right.
I don't think that there's a differential very significantly in preference.
yeah, that's just what I was getting at there.
And the packaging is the exact same.
Right.
And you cannot see through it, so you will not know what's in it unless you can read it or open it.
Yeah, okay,
Right.
thank you.
And
I
it's all
just-
child-proof packaging, which is required by the Cannabis Control Commission.
Thank you.
If you would like to see examples of the packaging, we have some here this evening.
Okay, cool.
Empty?
They're empty though, Chase.
I didn't check, but.
I hate them.
They are now.
Next, your estimated customers per day, 500, how did you come up, is that how many applicants that you're gonna, I guess on your app, how many appointments will you allow per day?
Well, the, kind of the data that we put together is, right now, we're seeing about 200 people a day, real-time, in Montague. So we figure that there's, a larger population that would probably come to the store, so we picked 500. Our POS system has a lot of reporting structure to it, and over the last 3 months, we've been noticing that on any given day, we're seeing about between an 8 to 10 minute cycle from the time they actually check in to the time they're out, their transaction is done and they're out the door is 8 to 10 minutes. So we'll have 10 POA stations, and then we just did math.
Yeah, I mean, basically, this goes for everybody in this room. I think the state did a horrible disservice by opening 2 stores in all of the Northeast. That's it. And everybody rushed those 2 stores. You saw all these issues. Now that more have opened and more are opening, I'm hoping that we don't have those traffic issues that.
It's a marketing play now.
Yeah.
Everybody's now trying to bring people to their store, so
Yep.
the numbers have come down significantly.
Yep, so, but what I was getting at, the 500 estimated customers a day, you're gonna be open for 11 business hours. That's approximately 45 cars an hour.
Yeah.
And is that what you're anticipating? About 45 an hour? Yeah,
And a lot of times there'll be 2 people, 3 people in a car.
Yeah.
When we measure the numbers per transaction, so.
Okay, all right. Thank you, that's all I have.
Okay, Mike?
I'm a little confused, because in your presentation, you said that you're only going to use your own product in retail, but you also said that your grow facility will have its first crop in February. So in Montague, you got to be using wholesale product.
Correct.
So, I mean, there's nothing in the agreement that says that you're going to only use your own product. It does say you're a craft grower, which is a special category. Are you, in fact, your grow license is for craft?
No, craft is just, we're a craft company, it is, but we are not a craft, is it? I don't think
There is a craft license.
There is a craft license.
Yeah.
No, we do not have a craft license.
Okay.
We have
Okay, so you
manufacturing.
really can't advertise as being a craft grower if you don't have a craft license, can you?
You're right.
That's-
Mike is right. We can't say we're craft, or we can change. I can just use submit. The issue is, however, that we are licensed now to grow. We have started growing, and we intend to use our own product for a few reasons. One, we do think it's going to be of better quality. 2, we're going to have a variety of quantities, different types of strains. And 3, just plain old economics. We believe that the profit motive to be vertically integrated is significantly better from just a net and a gross perspective.
Yeah. One health concern that I have is with respect to oils in particular, and particularly vaping oils. Have you thought about having any special controls like you would have in a medicine-type manufacturing facility that would have very high quality on the oils so that no contaminants are in, because that's a big issue right now. And what are you doing for quality control as far as your oils?
So a couple of things. Right now, there's a ban on all vaping products.
Yeah.
The CCC is working on some regulations on testing requirements. But the process, and it's the same process with flour, oil, edibles, all of those things have to go through a testing process before they can actually go onto the shelf for sale. Our oils are also going to be kosher certified. And right now, we're just waiting for direction from the CCC on what we need to test for. But we're going to make sure that, our product is the highest health quality that we can possibly produce.
And the reason we also added the kosher certification is that's just an extra degree, I think, of cleanliness. And we wanted to let our consumers know that we're doing all we can do.
I think at the end of the day, our oils will be equivalent to whatever the medical rules will be. We're not going to deviate from that. And I think the CCC, at their last meeting, which I attended, made it very clear that the testing regimen that they're going to create will make sure that there's purity, and that whatever tests they come up with will certify that.
Okay, that's my questions.
Okay, Mary?
All right, so I did it a little bit differently. I kind of went through the host agreement, paragraph by paragraph, and said what I liked about it and what I didn't like about it in comparison to the other host agreements. So I don't know if that's...
That's fine.
Okay,
That's fine.
so, all right, so I guess I'll start at the beginning. First of all, I just want to thank you for being here. I did go on the tour of Farm 353's site, both the retail store as well as the cultivation center, and Seth and his colleagues are extremely knowledgeable about the industry, so I just want to thank you up front for that.
Thank you.
Okay, before I dissect the host agreement, it's not personal. You're very knowledgeable and really an impressive operation. Okay. On the annual community benefit payment, so it's $15,000. Personally, I would have rather have the community benefit payment tied to revenue as a percentage. I think the agreement with, the host agreement with HEAL actually has a multiplier. I'm not going to say if I agree or disagree with the multiplier, but something tied to revenue so that, perhaps, with all due respect, 15,000 is there for, and then it's the greater of 15,000 or 0.0050 or 30. And because it doesn't make a lot of sense to me, let's say they're going to make, I don't know. So in year one, if you make, say, 5 million, I went through the math, that would be like a multiplier of 0.0030, and that's how you came up with 15,000. But let's say, from the research I've done, anytime I look into it, everyone's saying, well, I thought it was $1 million industry, but really, recreational cannabis has become $1 billion industry. So if they're making $10 million, I'm just saying, according to the news reports, I don't know if it's accurate, but one host agreement tied it to a multiplier. This one, as well as CARE, didn't, and I'm just saying I prefer the other approach.
Can I just say one thing? Actually, two things on that. The first is you can have it based on a multiplier, but the issue is if something's based on a multiplier, but people aren't up and ready to sell in time, 0 times 0.0.
I understand that. That's a different issue, but yes, timeliness is, of course, important. But I'm just looking at the host agreement, looking at the parameters. Obviously, if nobody opens, we get 0. I understand that. That's kind of basic.
We assure you will open.
I understand. I'm just going to go through, and let me just get through it, and then we can go back afterwards. So one host agreement has it tied to a percentage of revenue.
Can I just say one more thing? And we are willing to give whatever, we've just very quickly communicated with each other, and we'd be willing to match whatever HEAL has done. We don't want...
And I don't want to put one up against the other. Let me piggyback on something Chase said. I think it's a disservice that we couldn't, the Board of Selectmen couldn't go into executive session like we do with every other contract, whether it's a union contract, collective bargaining agreement, a private contract with a department head, our town administrator, when we purchase property, and it's a bad loophole in the open meeting law that they haven't addressed it. So we had our town administrator negotiate the host agreements on our behalf so that, we wouldn't get into proprietary financial agreement, and we wouldn't pit one applicant against the other. But now this is our opportunity to provide input into the host agreement. We haven't provided any input. We didn't negotiate these contracts, but we're the ones that have to approve it. So that's why I'm taking the approach where I'm just going through it, saying what I like about one, what I
Could I also
what my preference
add-
would be on.
Yeah, I understand what you're saying. There's another issue that I'm not sure that you're aware of, is that the state is looking at some of these host agreements. I think it might be the Attorney General, and saying, listen, it's 3%. You get, if it's anything more than that, then we're gonna look at the host agreement to make sure that. And so that's.
I understand that,
Yeah,
but
okay.
at this point, everybody has an annual community benefit payment.
Right.
And it was arrived at differently depending on what was negotiated.
Yeah,
So
we went
I'm
with
just,
something that has been approved already.
Pardon?
We went with the same,
okay,
a
yeah.
process that has been approved, that's what we came up with.
Okay, yeah, no, I'm just going through it, and I haven't made up my mind by any means. I'm just reading it as I would any other contract. So I'm just, so we're moving on. Under the police officer training, here's where I'm coming from. I'm all about minimizing the adverse impact to the residents. I think it's great that everybody's capitalized and communities are looking to make money from this. That's all great and good, but I also have a concern for the residents who live here and the kind of impact any business would have with respect to traffic and quality of life concerns and public health concerns. That's pretty much where I'm coming from. Maybe other select people are looking more at the economics of it, but I also want to weigh in other aspects. So when I get to the police officer training, I think it's great that the company shall reimburse the town for the actual cost incurred for a police officer to complete advanced roadside impairment driving enforcement training program. Personally, I don't think one officer going through training is sufficient from my perspective. This is a new industry, recently legalized in Massachusetts, and this particular police officer that goes through the training, well, he or she is on vacation or injured on duty. I don't see like one as being enough, personally. I may as well. I'm sorry. Okay, no, I may as well interject. Like, I use 131 and 20 regularly. I'm a runner, crazy enough to do that. And there's not one time, I started in the summer, there's not one time that I don't run, whether it's like 7 a.m., 6 at night, that at least one car is just reeking of cannabis. We know people are driving under the influence. I mean, it's just very apparent. I can't identify which car it is because they're at a stop sign. Is it this one or this one? But between smelling I always can smell BT Smokehouse and cannabis. And sometimes I'll come home and say, I had one car, I had two cars. So Sturbridge is in a unique situation with respect to a lot of other towns because we're small, but yet we have access to two major highways. And I'm sure that's why we have three extremely capable, professional, well-financed applicants that want to come to Sturbridge. We're not a remote town like a Northampton or a Leicester or that is off the beaten path. So people are going to get in their cars and they're going to hit the highways. I know they're not supposed to, buy in Massachusetts to go to Connecticut, and your literature is very, very good on that it's not legal, but let's face it, I can see it, they're doing it, and I think that's a reason why we have three applicants too, to capitalize on the Connecticut market until it's legal there. So I would like to see more than one officer
How many would
trained.
you like to see? I guess that's probably.
Personally, 3.
Okay.
That's just me, but I'm worried about the safety. I'm
I
worried about the safety aspect of
actually
driving.
absolutely agree with you, and I don't think we'd have any problem in training 3 people.
Okay,
Jeff?
awesome.
Just
He
a
wants to
comment on that.
interject.
And I understand that this says 1, but it's part of the 3% of gross sales money we receive, we use for offsetting impacts. So we intended to use those funds, as this one is for 1 officer, to train multiple officers. This just happens to say 1.
Yes,
So
but-
that same pot of money is available to train the entire police force.
Yes, but provided, okay, I understand, but I think that it's a separate provision here.
I understand.
And it should be in addition to.
Okay.
Furthermore, the paragraph goes on to say, provided, however, that any upfront payment for such fees and costs shall be offset against the annual payment of 3% of gross sales. So even this 1 officer was going to get offset by the 3%. So.
Right.
Right, I'm saying, I don't think that that's in the best interest of our public safety.
Okay, so what you're saying is this 15,000, you want it to be the greater of 15,000 or 0.003% of revenue?
I don't have the percentage. I was just comparing.
Well, I mean, that's kind of how we backed into it.
That was a separate provision.
Okay, and
So
then-
I'm sorry, I'm just going, that was under annual community benefit payment. Now we're under police officer training. That's under additional cost payments and reimbursement. It's a whole separate part of the host agreement.
Right.
That's the way I'm reading it.
Okay.
1 is 3% annual community impact fee, and now I've moved on to paragraph C, which is additional cost payments and reimbursements. And that was just a red flag. All 3 agreements are training 1 officer. And I just circled all the host agreements saying 1 officer being trained in knowing whether somebody is driving under the influence of cannabis is not sufficient to secure public safety for Sturbridge. That's what I'm saying on that. Okay.
So you'd look.
I don't have my amount tonight. I thought this was our opportunity to. Right, and
Give
I'm
input.
not trying to negotiate tonight in open session. I'm just saying what I like and what I don't like about the different agreements. Under the annual reporting for the financial statement, again, it says, the town may require the company to have its financial records examined, copied, and audited by an independent financial auditor. And that is because we would be, in the event the town is unable to verify the company's gross sales. So you submit your financial statement, assume the town is unable to verify the company's gross sales, we have the right to an independent financial auditor, but then I didn't, and this isn't all the contracts. The expense of which shall be borne by the company, provided that such expense shall be offset against the annual payment of 3% of gross sales. Again, if we can't verify the financial statements and we have to hire an auditor, I don't see why that's going to be offset by the 3%. That doesn't make sense to me. We should be able to verify the financial statement without needing an auditor.
Right.
And if the company pays for the auditor, but it's offset, you're not really paying for it, that's part of the 3% we're already getting.
Yeah, I think we might be able to clarify this. We have outside accountants, and also will be a fully audited company as if we were listed on an exchange. So we will have a third set of eyes. We have our own internal, we have outside accountants, and then we're going to have an outside auditing firm to audit our accountants and everything else, which we're happy to provide you with our certified audit each year.
Fantastic. And as I said, you're all very knowledgeable and professional. I'm just reading our agreement, and it says, in the event we're not able to verify, despite your auditor and your entire process, we have the right to bring in an independent financial auditor that the company is going to pay for, but then they're going to offset the cost of that by the 3%. Well, that's, in essence, the town's paying for it with our 3%.
Well, can I just talk about the 3% for a minute? And I wish Nicole was here, because she could put this into a legal perspective.
I do too, because I'm not voting for any host agreement in the absence of
I
council
understand,
present.
that's fine. The 3% by the CCC is supposed to offset impacts to the community because they've located here.
Okay.
It's not a general fund revenue that can be used for whatever we want to use it for. And actually, new regulations are going to require us to produce how we spent this money.
Okay.
So it has to be used in some form or fashion to address impacts that these businesses have in town. So that's why some of these things say, well, the 3% can be used, the 3% can be used. But the 3% can be used by a bunch of other things as well, as long as we relate it to impacts of these types of operations. So when I say we can train the whole police force with their 3%, we can. It just so happens this identified one. If they're impacting local roads, we can use the 3%. If we need to get an auditor, we use it the 3%, not general fund money.
Well, okay, so I guess I'll take it up with our council, because the contract, the host agreement is very ambiguous and confusing with respect to that, because I'm reading it as additional costs, payments, and reimbursements. So if something is an additional payment, that means, the way I read it, it's in addition to the 3%. If it's not in an addition, then we should just itemize everything that the 3% is going to be used for. I mean, the way this reads, it's an additional cost. So I'm reading this as, in addition to the 3%, we have a right to permit and connection fees, facility consulting fees, other costs, police officer training, and a late payment penalty. If that's all part of the 3%, we shouldn't label it additional payments.
And that's a construction issue. A construction issue.
It's more than that, it's a language issue, because right now, the way this reads, if we were to sign it, is we're going to get police officer training in addition to the 3%. I mean, there's no other way to read this. There's no other way to read that, if I have to go back to my own legal training.
I think I speak for everyone. If your concern is clearly, we can't offset too much. And I had thought, and I am a practicing lawyer, I actually thought, and maybe I misinterpreted, that we were going to be paying for the training of one police officer. We have just said we're willing to do for 3. Perhaps the language could be clearer, and we would be happy to pay for in addition, not offsetting the 3.
The language is, I agree, and I am also trained, the language is crystal clear. What our town administrator just said is, it's part of the 3%.
But he's also not
confused me.
wrong. I guess the concern in the whole Commonwealth is that towns and cities are going to misuse or misappropriate assets and engage in things that are just wrong in a way, because they see this pot of gold. And I think that's the reason. They want to make sure that things don't go overboard.
I totally understand. I've also been doing the reading. I have no interest for you to build anything in Sturbridge, do anything for Sturbridge. I just want our police officers trained so that when somebody drives down 131 and 20, they know how they can pull them over and determine if they're driving under the influence of cannabis, because they're doing it right now, and we're not really doing anything about it. It's happening right now. And I agree, I think it needs to be closely linked to any adverse impact the industry will have on Sturbridge. And training police officers is about as directly linked as we can get. So that is where I'm at.
Well,
but I would like to talk to council. I certainly, if that's not a legitimate use of additional 3%, then I don't want to do it. But if it is, I want
Police
it.
officers?
Yeah, well, you had said
absolutely.
there's only so much we can do. You had said there's only so much we can do, that the 3% is supposed to be used for that.
Well, there's supposed to be a nexus between the
And there's a very-
industry and the use of the
So
funds.
to me, there's a clear nexus.
Absolutely.
Okay, and I don't find one officer enough.
Okay.
Okay. Throughout these host agreements, I'm a little concerned where it says the town shall approve. Sometimes it's the Board of Selectmen, sometimes it's the chief of police, and sometimes it just says the town. And I'm confused now as to what can the town administrator give the okay? If it's right for the Board of Selectmen, I'd like it to be spelled out
for the Board of Selectmen. And anytime it
Excuse me,
comes
what
up.
page are you on?
Well, now I'm on page 6, but when it comes up, I'll just tell you, Jeff, because I don't know who needs to approve.
Okay.
I'm on page 6. In the event the town receives 5 or more complaints from citizens representing separate households, that's reasonable, can't all be from the same house, within a 2-week period. That's too rigid. I mean, in 1 month, if we get 8 complaints and it didn't fall within that 2-week period, we're not in the contract. So I don't know who added that language, but, you know, it's going to have to be more flexible than that. I don't want to be held to 2 weeks. I don't know how the rest of the board feels, but if we get complaints, we're going to need to be able to address it. So many in 6 months, you know, so many in 3 months, but 2 weeks is a little too confining, I think.
You want it looser?
Yeah, much, yes. Because right now, it's
Similar to the alcohol.
so is alcohol. It's got to be a little bit looser. Okay, moving on. The hours of operation. I noticed, and I don't know, I don't have everybody in front, the hours of operation really differed from one to the other. Oh, thank you. You know, you're the earliest at 9. Heal is 10, and caregiver is 11. To me, again, with the traffic, I'm worried about the traffic. I know all the locations are zoned for it, I get it, but the traffic in Sturbridge is going to be heavily impacted by 84 and 90. We just are. And the later, the better, because we have a lot of commuters commuting to Hartford, commuting to Providence, Boston, Worcester, and at 7 a.m. and 8 a.m., they're trying to get to work. And I just, a 10 o'clock or an 11 o'clock open, I think takes into account our residents trying to get to their jobs a lot better.
I'm confused. Do you think this is too early?
No, I think the
that's
later the
good.
better.
Yeah, no, that's,
The later the
yeah,
better.
because they're all after the morning rush.
Yeah, but the 10 and 11 is.
Is better than
Well
that.
after than.
is
what you're saying.
better than
Yeah,
that.
that's all.
Yeah,
That's better than 9. I'm not saying that's the deal breaker, I'm just comparing the different contracts. I was very happy to see the company shall make every effort in a legal manner to provide a pamphlet flyer to patrons. That's one of the things that impressed me about Farm 353. In their retail facility, as soon as you walk in, they have really good literature, you know, on the positives of cannabis and also the negative impact. You know, the studies show that with a young mind, it can have, you know, memory loss, cognitive problems. Studies are not conclusive on that. And I thought they did a very good job with it. Very, very good job. I took the literature myself, and I was very pleased with that. So this one, our chief has already said that he's reviewed the security plans, and he's happy with them. I would have liked right in the host agreement, I know Chief Ford came up with letters saying he has no problem with everybody's security, excellent. But this language is not really strong enough for the town.
Which section?
Security and safety.
Page
Okay.
8.
Third paragraph down on page 8, to the extent requested by the town's police department. And then it goes on, the company shall work with the town's police department in reviewing and approving all security plans. I'm not on board with shall work with. I'd like a sentence that reads, the police department shall approve all security plans. Reasonable within, well, reason's always going to be implied, but within reason as opposed to work with. I think the
We would
police
have more
department needs to
trouble with
approve.
that.
And they did, but
Yeah.
it should be in the host agreement itself. Then the approval of the manager, this is one of the ones where I wasn't sure. In every other case, the manager, it's always been the Board of Selectmen that approves of all managers, whether they're getting their license for a restaurant, for anything. And I personally would like to see that determination remain with the Board of Selectmen and not the town administrator in conjunction with the chief of police. I'd love your recommendation, but it should be treated no looser than we treat any, and any change of manager always comes before us as well. So that should remain with the Board of Selectmen. On that subparagraph 11 on page 9. And then I just had a question on page 183. It's the 18-month window. It says, in the event the company has not secured a final license with the CCC within 18 months, this agreement shall expire, and the company shall be required to negotiate a new host agreement in order to operate the facility within the town. At that point, I want us to be able to give the license to somebody else, not just negotiate a new host agreement. I mean, negotiating a new host agreement is only as good as if they're able to open. So, I mean, I think we have 3 extremely good applicants. It's going to be very hard to make a decision.
I think,
But if Farm 353 gets it and 18 months goes by, I don't want to just negotiate a new host agreement. I want to pull our approval and, move on to caregivers or somebody else that might come around.
I think that language was put in there so it does give you the flexibility to do whatever you want at the end of 18 months.
Oh, okay. The way I read it is, that I just read it that we can negotiate a new host agreement, but we had to have chosen you.
We can change some language, but he's absolutely correct. It provided you could do whatever you wanted.
Oh,
to
okay.
particular
Okay, that's
site.
not,
So no, we can
tweak
extend.
the language on that.
oh, yeah, change the language. I want to be able to pull it all together. So under enforcement, I noticed that the violations for Farm 353 were considerably less than, I don't know, hold on, let me see.
Yeah, one has a different scale.
Caregivers, I thought was really,
Caregivers, I think, is the highest.
yes, first violation of 1,000. I have fines are better here in terms of being a deterrent for violating. First violation is 1,000. Here it's $250.
But the first violation doesn't close their business for a day. That was the difference. They
Oh,
traded money
okay.
for time.
Okay. Okay, so second violation is a 2-day suspension and 5,000, a 7-day suspension and 500. Okay.
That's the-
I'm sorry, okay, that's the difference. I think that the violations, and I don't, know if this has been done in other host agreements, but some violations I think are worse than others. And so a violation where they sold to a minor, I think should carry a stiffer penalty.
Well, that's criminal.
Yeah, well, I know that, but I know it's criminal, but
Banned by the CCC.
I get it, but in our host agreement, we're not differentiating at all. I know the CCC would close it down, but like, this is our control. And,
Well, I'm confident enough in our security systems and our ID systems that whatever remedy you think should be in there is probably fine, because I don't think
Okay.
we're ever going to run into that.
I didn't, and I apologize, I didn't recognize the difference in days
Suspension,
suspension, so I'll have to rethink that one. Here's another example of where I'm confused as to whether it's the Board of Selectmen or the town administrator that has the go-ahead, because it just says the town. Maybe we need a definitional section where we identify who the town is, because it says, "The company shall not assign, sublet, or otherwise transfer its rights in whole or in part without the prior written consent from the town." I don't know, is that the Board of Selectmen by majority vote? Is that the town administrator?
I agree, it needs to be cleaned up. My position is every time it says town, it means Board of
Oh,
Selectmen.
okay, good,
But
okay, so,
we'll clean that up.
all right, awesome. And then, okay. So, okay, I already talked about the multiplier. So that's it. Again, oh, and then, this is true of all the host agreements. I'm concerned with traffic, and I know the way we're addressing it is by having by appointment only. But if you have, 1,000 or 2,000 appointments a day, I'm being, a little facetious. The number of appointments only alleviates traffic if you're controlling the amount of appointments that you have. And in all of these three host agreements, the town doesn't have any say with respect to how many appointments are going to be had in a day. So just having appointments really doesn't address traffic as far as I'm concerned. I don't know if it's appropriate, but what about, a traffic study that would help determine how many appointments a different location can reasonably have without shutting the town down in terms of the amount of traffic that it's going to generate? Because I know the whole purpose of having appointments only is to try to address traffic concerns. I tried to pull up the article. I think it was in the Telegram and Gazette, but it might have been in the Globe, I don't remember. But I remember giving a copy to our town administrator, and I think it was Leicester. On their opening day, it was a traffic nightmare for the residents. And I think the article indicated that they served 1,000 customers that day. Now, I know that's their opening day, but given how capitalized these applicants are, it could be a Leicester every day in Sturbridge with 1,000 customers a day. And I don't want to see Sturbridge turn into Leicester's opening day, because we will get a lot of pushback from that. So I don't know if traffic studies are done under these circumstances, because I want to choose the location that I think can best handle the flow of traffic to minimize the impact on residents. Because a lot of these patrons, some of them are going to be Sturbridge residents for sure, no question, but I would say the vast majority are going to be patrons coming from out of state or out of town. And I'm here to represent the residents. So I want the location that's going to have the least impact on the traffic, so.
If I
Well,
could
as
comment
far
real
as-
quickly on that, just from, real-time information.
Yes.
When everybody's having these opening 1,000 people days, there was maybe 3 or 4 dispensaries. Now there's 32 dispensaries open now.
Yes.
People aren't seeing that anymore. But to give an indication, right now we're averaging about 200 people a day. We don't have more than 9 cars in our parking lot at any one time.
No, I know, I saw your retail store, but in terms of everybody's opening, I took note, and I know, I think 500 was possibly mentioned by Farm 353, and I think 1,000 might have been mentioned by caregivers, not 1,000. I know that, I don't want to, but I know that they were, I'd have to go back and look at my notes, but I know there were, the financial model called for more than 200.
Yeah, one of the challenges, and we saw this when we opened up our Montague store, because again, nobody knows what's going to happen.
Right.
Is because there's so much limitation on how we can market, we can't do, it's very limited on how we advertise. It's almost more organic. We had 30 people come in, then 100, it was over a period of time where we actually finally got to 200 people a day.
Right. Okay, that's good to know.
Yeah,
Like I said, your opening was
opening
different.
process. We thought, well, we'd love to see a whole bunch of people come in, but the reality was, there's still people that don't even know that we're open, and they live in Turner's Falls.
So I would
it's really
just,
frustrating to try to
This is close to Connecticut.
let people know
We're-
what's going on.
right, I mean, Turner's Falls is a beautiful community, and again, your facility, I don't know a lot about cannabis, I've learned along the way, appears to me to be state-of-the-art, I don't, but everybody wants to come to Sturbridge for a reason, and it's our access to 84 and 90 in terms of your investors and the financial model. I mean, I think that's accurate. So I want some kind of language that will give the town, the Board of Selectmen, input with respect to how many appointments a day are going to occur. I don't have the language, but that would be my preference, or a
that's-
traffic study, because otherwise,
Well, the traffic study, Mary, whoever gets approved has to go through site plan and, you know,
That's not a
site plan.
traffic study, though.
They can have them do traffic
Yes,
studies,
but we can
you know.
also,
And,
but the Board of Selectmen and the host
And it's-
agreement could
and yeah,
require it.
And it's true about the numbers are down. The same thing with casinos. All the millions and millions of dollars casinos were supposed to pull in, they're not pulling them in. And if, you know, we have 3 applicants, and if we give 3 licenses, you know, they're scattered throughout the town. It's not all going to be in one spot.
But I have to go by what they represented to us in terms of the amount of applicants, of the amount of patrons that they want to serve a day. I mean, they're all professionals, they've done their homework.
Is there a way you could work up numbers, just rough estimates on number of appointments and, you know,
We'll do that.
just to give us a number to work with,
Well,
And I think,
you know?
Per day visits, we know the estimate.
Yeah, but
You don't know where they're.
you're not going to know where they're coming
We
from.
we actually ran the numbers,
Oh,
and we don't think that we'll ever have more than 400 or 500 people a day coming into our store. There's just, it's just, with the amount of facilities that have opened in the state, and the fact that it's not, you know, oh my goodness, we have a cannabis facility. It's just, as you mentioned, the casinos, it's come down. If we could do 500 a day, we'd be the happiest campers in
I think,
Sturbridge.
right, I think, and then I'll turn over to.
Yeah, that's okay.
I think, you know, again, I don't want to beat a dead horse. I think Sturbridge is in a unique situation compared to other small towns. I think we resemble much more of a city in terms of our access to New York, to Connecticut. I've seen the kind of traffic that Waze brings through our town on a regular basis. We are not Turner's Falls. We are not Leicester. We're not Northampton. I'd say we're going to even get more traffic than Framingham because of our access to Connecticut and New York. I mean, that's just the way it is. The interchange right now on the Mass Pike is the worst on the Sturbridge exit. I mean, that's just, so, you know, so it will be very profitable, but I'm looking at the downside. So, and I don't want to leave it up to design review to determine.
No, it's not
whether or
design
not-
review.
Well, all I know is we're elected, we have to approve the host agreement, and I'm saying that I would like to see some kind of traffic study. Priscilla?
I have to agree with Selectman Dowling, for this reason. I work in Southbridge, and I go from Sturbridge to Southbridge. I live very close to 131, and I go to South, right down to 131. On any given day, and I go to work for 10:30. I teach at a college, so I go in for 10:30.
Oh, we
On
do
any
teach.
given day, it can take me 15 minutes to go from my end of Sturbridge, which is close to 131, to the border of Southbridge.
Wow.
On any one given day.
Yeah.
And like I said, I go to work for 10:30. Coming home, when I come home in the mid-afternoon, sometimes it's less, sometimes it's more, it depends. But the traffic line is always, always long coming down. So I understand where she's coming from. I totally do, and I agree. I think an impact.
I think I have a solution for you, just to make things more efficient. We really do want to partner with you. We are ready to go. So we will say that we won't service more than 600 a day. There you go.
Or whatever the traffic study says is, you know.
Is
Or
feasible.
just, we'll cap it,
Yeah.
you know, and that's it. And it'll be capped, you'll be happy, and we can all
And
move
if
forward.
future Board of Selectmen feel differently,
That's fine.
you
but-
can always renegotiate a host
But
agreement.
we're happy to cap.
Yeah.
600 is reasonable. We're happy. Our employees will be happy. We also don't want overworked people. We really, I don't mean to insult you with the word craft, but we really consider ourselves craftsmen of the cannabis world. And we don't want overworked, harried, hassled employees either. So it can be a win-win. I'm just curious, where do you teach college?
At Quinsigamon
Oh,
Community.
very good, very good.
Yeah, and in the traffic study, we have to, thank you for that, for, have I remarked that? Jeff?
Just a question, Claire, so you're requiring, you're going to...
I would still like to see a traffic
Yeah.
study
No,
to
no,
see
we're
what,
saying we're going to cap it at
Okay.
600. Because the traffic study can
or,
take a
but
year.
No.
didn't your,
What we
I'm
can,
sorry, I forgot you.
Alan?
Alan,
I think he said, or whatever the traffic study indicates
Yeah,
is
but that's
feasible
going
for
to
the
take us too
location.
long. What we're going to want, if I could just interject for a moment, then Alan can speak. What I found in my life is efficiency and clarity and simplicity always work. we believe that we will have 500 at the height of people coming in. That's what we think is approximate. However, we will take a risk that it could be more, say, like 1,000 even, but we'll cap this at 600. And that should alleviate your concerns with respect to traffic. I think what Alan was saying, if in the future, we've been in business long enough that we can, have a real traffic study on real numbers, we can finance that and see what's reasonable. But in the beginning, to alleviate any current concerns that are quite reasonable you have concerning your beautiful town, then we're happy to cap. And we will cap.
I don't think, if we don't, but see, the thing is, if we don't get the traffic study and this host agreement now, we're not going to get it years down the road.
Well, no, we can put it in.
Oh, okay,
in.
okay. So these are all things that maybe are good things to
That's
think
what
about
I'm
a little
saying.
bit. And
And what I'd like to see in any agreement like this would be that, obviously, the AM peak hour of traffic will not be impacted because you're not open, around 6 to 9 a.m. But at the PM peak hour, which would be between, say, 3 and 6 p.m., if you could limit the number of appointments during that period, it would seriously reduce the impact on traffic overall.
Well, we could use the app for that.
Yeah.
So that would be doable.
Throughout the day, traffic, you could generate more traffic, from 9 to 3 p.m., and then kind of calm it down a little bit during when traffic actually peaks in the afternoon.
Well, it's sort of our intent is, assuming we're chosen, as the process goes along, if there's an issue, we figure out how we fix it together. I mean, it's because we don't want to impact the town that's negative, but at the same time, don't want to create issues that aren't there. And so it's just sort of the way that we've always approached businesses. If there's a problem, let's figure out how we can fix it for the best interest of everybody. And if it's limiting the number of app or people that come in and taking the app and only saying 70% of the appointments we're going to book, just in case people decide they're going to come spur of the moment, which they will, we'll work with the town. I mean, and we can put something in the agreement to that effect.
thank you. Okay, yep, I'm good on that one.
A lot of my questions have been answered. I do have a question on the building now. When you presented it, it was going to be renovating the building that's there. Is that still
Correct.
true?
Correct.
Oh, because you know how word gets around about things, somebody thought you were going to tear it down and put up a new building, but
Absolutely not.
no.
Okay. Absolutely not. It's a very good structure.
Oh, yeah.
The only part
Yeah,
of
because I
that,
went to the presentation you
Yeah.
gave at the public
the only
house.
part of that structure that, we have to, the back right corner is a cooler. So those cooler panels have to come down, it has to be framed in. But there's absolutely no change of the footprint of that structure.
Right.
We, at our outreach meeting, we showed what we were going to be doing to to it.
And that's why we think once we're permitted and ready to go, within 4 months, we'll have
Be up and
all the
running.
construction done and ready to roll.
Yeah, once
after we permit,
once
yeah.
the state,
Yeah, that's what I meant.
state moves slower than us.
Okay.
We've noticed.
I don't know whether that's a good thing or not. But, okay, anything else from the board? Okay, so we have some cleaning up to do and a few things to ask council, okay? We do have another meeting on December 16th. Whether we'll decide then. Hopefully, we can put this to bed soon.
That'd be
It's been,
Thank you.
Thank you.
thank you.
Thank you for accommodating us to look at the facility.
Oh, absolutely. It was a pleasure.
Okay, next, just on the listing is Caregiver Patient Connect. Six. Oh, 7:45.
Hello.
Okay, good evening. Okay, for the record in the audience, could you introduce yourself, please?
Sure, I'll start. My name is Catherine Trifolo. I'm president of Caregiver Patient Connection.
Michael Stady, CFO of Caregiver.
Ron Lequia, Director of Security.
Dean Iandoli, one of the founders and one of the managing partners.
Anthony Brock, Director of Operations.
Okay.
Right, so just briefly, I think we've had a few board members out to our property, and we really appreciate you taking the time to come out and see our operation. We're really proud of what we've done. So we want to thank the board for your time. I know that this has been a long process. And Mr. Bridges, thank you, and of course, Jean, thank you so much for everything you've done. Sturbridge has been great to work with, very knowledgeable and professional. So we're not going to take up too much of your time here because I'm sure that there are questions on the HCA. You know, at the May 6th meeting, we had introduced ourselves, and we loosely had a property at 201 Main. If you'll recall, we're the company that we're on our third property. We really, really like our location right now. We really did our best to listen to the concerns of the board and community members, and that's how we landed on 365 Main, and we're thrilled to be there. So we just really wanted to talk about 3 items tonight and then open up for questions. But the first is the neighborhood support that we have. The second is the traffic flow, which I don't know if anyone's on Facebook, but I'm a member of the Sturbridge community, and there was a lot of issues this past weekend on Farquhar Road, and we feel that our site is really not going to affect the side roads. That's what we're thinking. And we also want to talk about the viability of our site. So neighborhood support, you can see that we have residents of the manufactured home community here, and we have residents of the town of Sturbridge. It's actually, we're Dean's sister who lives in Sturbridge, and her husband, Paul, and their 3 kids. So the manufactured home community, we've become friendly with a few of the occupants there, and I don't want to speak for them, but I think that they're very comfortable with us and our location, and as a group, what we can do to make their park maybe more comfortable for them, and also my feeling is they think that we'll be good neighbors, and that's our goal, to be good neighbors.
Well, we did get a letter of support from several of the residents, and we also got a letter of support from the owner of the property.
Yeah. And we really appreciate that, and we really appreciate them taking the time to come to this meeting.
Well, they also appreciated you working with them as far as buffers.
We've had a lot of fun. I mean, part of our mission statement is to have a positive influence and impact on the communities where we're doing business, and that's really important to us. So with that, I'm going to probably hand everything over to my husband, Dean.
Sure, thank you. Again, thanks for taking the time to come out and see our facilities. Traffic is obviously a huge concern. It's a concern. You know, I made this comment at the community outreach meeting that, you know, I get calls, you know, now that we're established and we're operating, I get calls every day from people saying, hey, I've got a perfect spot for you, it's great, and it's zoned for it. And they don't grasp that zone for it is box number 1, and there's 25 other boxes that we, as a company, need to check in order to make sure that it's going to fit in the community. And, you know, I think it was Selectwoman Jimis asked the question, and you threw me the first time, what are you going to do with people coming up from Connecticut? And then we were asked by Chief Ford the same thing, and at that point, we, I think, had the second location on Main Street, and we looked, 201, and we looked, and we Waze'd it, and we Google Earthed it, and we punched it into our nav systems, and boom.
And we drove it.
We drove it. We drove it. And so that's when, you know, we had our eye on our current location, 365 Main Street. And you all know this better than me. My graphic up there shows it pretty clearly. We are expecting a lot of customers coming from Connecticut. What that shows is, you know, customers coming from the south. It's up 84. It's almost a figure 8 around Route 20. It's a turn back around. They come into our facility, and when they leave, they go 600 feet down the road, and they're back on 84. It's clear anyone coming from the north or coming from the east is going to come right down that Route 20 artery. So we really feel that there's going to be very little to no impact on the secondary residential roads and side roads in Sturbridge. We're on one of the main arteries in the town. And we believe that the quality of life of the people who live in the town, who have to commute on an everyday basis, is not going to be affected by our location. With that, I know the evening's getting late, and I can take further questions about traffic later on, but I'll turn it over to Partner Michael.
Yeah, I'm going to be equally brief. One comment, I've been developing real estate in this state for 25 years. I've never seen a group and a board in a town so vested in the due diligence that your board and group has done. It's been very impressive, and we appreciate it because we feel it's giving you a chance to get to know us, as I'm sure you have the other groups. And as Selectman Dowling noted, I think you have 3 quality applicants here tonight. We talked a lot about neighborhood support, the traffic. I think you've learned our capabilities by coming to our sites and getting to know us for the last 10 months, I think we've been bothering Gene. The other one closing point we have is that from a retail standpoint, eventually this industry is going to become like every other retail industry in this country. And while right now some of your neighboring towns don't have dispensaries, they will. And as this gets developed, right now, any of us that open are going to see 500 to 800 customers a day. GTI in Great Barrington has been open for 6-7 months, and they're still seeing 1,500 customers on the weekends. So Connecticut, New York customers. And you're going to experience that too, except we're going to limit the number of appointments a day to. If it's 600, that's what our model that we've shared already shows is anywhere from 580 to 650 based on the number of kiosks we have, 10 minutes per processing per customer, number of parking spots. It's all data we've provided already to town administrator. Our site, in comparison to the other two, is a true retail site. There's a reason that CVS just invested millions of dollars across the street. Panera Bread just opened there. Yankee Spirits, one of the highest grossing liquor stores in the state. In the long run, and that should be important to the town too, it will generate more revenues for the town through host community agreements and taxes. And I think that's very important to consider. If there's any further questions regarding security, our operations, our grow methods, a lot of them have been asked already. We are happy to answer your questions. Thank you.
Okay, Priscilla?
Okay. All right. First of all, I do agree with your traffic flow. I do believe you'll have minimal impact in residential areas. Now, under the section of annual community benefit payment, you delineate $15,000 total, but you delineate it. I personally prefer you leave it to our discretion as to, like, we might need to put $8,000 in for police funding versus the $5,000 that you're saying. But when you delineate it this way, we're stuck to that $5,000. I would prefer, if this is just me, if it read like the other one reads where, let me get to it. It says that for as long as the facility is in operation, a sum of $15,000 for purposes of local funding community initiatives in town, that allows us to do it as we need to. That's one of my preferences. I know I did not see, under additional costs, I did not see police officer training. And that's a question. Is it somewhere else?
We had proposed under 1A, Section B, 1A, a sum of $5,000.
Section B? Hang on.
Page 189?
Yeah, I'm sorry.
Oh, so you're doing it as part of that 15,000?
We were, yeah. We
Okay.
checked into, through Ron, we had checked into a couple different, Ron's a retired police officer from Fitchburg, and we had checked into a couple different training programs. So we thought just to, yes, a lot of the issue, it's traffic and safety issues.
Right.
And so we thought to designate money towards training of officers. I think one of the programs was at no cost.
Right,
but we were
A-RIDE,
thinking-
you mentioned,
yeah.
Mary, you mentioned A-RIDE earlier. So A-RIDE is funded by the Executive Office of Public Safety, and DRE is the other drug recognition expert through the International Association of Chiefs of Police. There's funding sources out there that cover the schooling, so we thought some money to help the department offset the cost of sending officers away to school. Maybe they could use, any way they want to, but maybe use it to supplement the vacancy, overtime for the vacancy created by sending that officer out to those trainings.
So as opposed to an additional caveat in your contract, you're giving it to us as part of that 15,000.
We were, but we're open to, if the board prefers it to be in a different way so that you have more discretion over it, that we're obviously amenable to that as well.
I personally would be. Okay, but that's just one. Okay. Okay, and you're providing 20 hours of community volunteer service. That's the lowest of the three. If you consider going to 100, I'd like to hear that too, okay? I do like your statement of agreeing not to dispense desserts. That's an important one for me. You have the same product restrictions as all of them have, but I do like the fact that you have stated that very clearly and directly. I believe, now, your violations, I know Selectman Dowling, I think, brought this one up. The violations are higher, but it was noted that...
I didn't see
Yeah,
the
I
trade-off.
didn't either, Mary, to be honest.
Yeah.
Are you willing to add days to close down?
So we talked about this extensively with Jean and your town administrator, and the feeling was that, of course, all of us are going to act in the best interest of the town and do things right. In the case of a violation, we want to be the ability to correct it in a timely manner, and then instead of closing the store, which penalizes us, but also penalizes the town in lost revenues, we'd rather increase the fine and have the store closed for fewer days. It's not a deal breaker for us, but I think it's in the town's best interest. Situation's got to get corrected first, of course, Selectman.
Well, if we have alcohol establishments that violate, they get closed.
They don't generate the same kind of HGA fees that we're going to. So you think about the
In
daily...
our town, they get closed if they have violations, and they pay a fine.
Again, we're amenable to working with you.
It depends on the
what it is,
violation.
but, I mean, it's there.
The thinking was it's a win-win to keep the store open after the violation is addressed, because that generates the most revenues for your town. So that's why
That, to me, is up for the debate. That's up for discussion, but, because it's a win-win for you. In
like
one
I
way,
said,
yeah.
it's a real thrust, absolutely.
Yeah, okay. That's actually all I had.
Well, thank you for your interest in Sturbridge. I toured your facility, and you guys are awfully nice people. Thank you. Where did you guys come up with the 572 customers a day?
So, I don't know if you got the full table, but basically, we're looking at sales kiosks of between 10 and 12. We use 10 on the conservative side.
Yeah.
Average sales time is 8 to 10 minutes per customer. We use 10, again, being conservative. That means you can service 60 customers an hour. We're proposing to be open 9 hours a day, so that's 540 customers a day, roughly. And then we figured there'd be online orders that would just be in and out in a couple of minutes. So roughly 580. Our current design has 13 kiosks, so we could get higher and still put the throughput through. But clearly there's concerns about starting and number of appointments, and so it seems like 600 is a reasonable number to start with. But that's how we get to the calculation.
And you'll have a formula for your app, to divide the time.
Oh, yeah,
You would
yeah.
only have
There'll
so
be
many
a certain number of spots per hour in time slots open on the app.
Okay.
We've already talked to the provider of that software and started researching that.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
And you would be selling edible gummies and chocolate bars and things like that. Okay.
But
cool.
not the
Not the
cookies,
brownies or the cookies.
brownies, ice
Yeah.
cream.
Cool. No, something that we haven't talked about that, for all the agreements, we've talked a lot about police with traffic, and driving under the influence. What I'd like to see some money for is the DARE program at the schools. I think is as equal as important.
Well, there's money in, one of them I read for student education.
That's where the linkage between the 3% impact fee and the use of the funds comes from.
Okay. Yeah.
So, looking to...
Just throwing that out there.
Yeah.
that-
No, and I
that-
don't believe they even do
They don't do DARE anymore.
No,
No, that's been gone for a while.
Really?
Yeah.
They call it something else?
It's another program. I don't know what it is, but
And
it's
Chief and I
not.
have had conversations about how can we use those 3% funds for education at the schools. And It's something we'll have to get with the school committee about and work up a curriculum.
Yeah, or a name for it, you know.
Yeah.
Called something else these days.
Well, acronyms have to have real words, too.
No, if I could just comment on that, excuse me, I'm sorry. In our revised agreement that we got from town council, it does indicate that that $5,000 could be used towards police and education as well.
Okay, great.
So,
Yeah, because I just
That's that,
read
out of that
it,
15?
but I don't know which page.
correct.
Okay.
Yep.
Michael?
Well, just continuing on that thought, I did attend a Massachusetts Selectmen's Association meeting in which the State Department of Health presented evidence that, you know, the money spent on education, especially in late elementary and early secondary education is just, you get a lot back for your money. So I would encourage adding some wording that we do spend, and coordinating our local efforts with the Massachusetts Department of Public Health and our local health department to bring education to the younger people in town. It's very important. You know, I've had visitors from the Netherlands, for example, that were school-age children, and their education programs are fantastic for their youth. So I think there's a lot we can do as a community, and using some of this money for that would be important. I know there's a lot going on with vaping oils, and I'd like you to just comment on my prior question of what are you doing to ensure that any oils that you produce are very high quality and safe for the public. It's a topic that's out there.
It's a timely question, and we could really probably have a detailed discussion about it. We're going to go back to the CCC at this point and 935 CMR, which, you know, has, well, we obviously have a vaping ban and a quarantine in effect right now. There's proposed language that is now being discussed by the commission that's going to heighten the testing protocols for extraction in oils. Right now, they're pretty difficult to pass anyway. In fact, we just got testing results back from our first harvest, and we passed all testing protocols for extraction, which is what we're hoping to do. As far as additional measures, Anthony might have some insight into corporate.
Yeah, we will absolutely be testing any and all produced oils and concentrates to meet all standards proposed by the CCC. As well as doing that, it's a business stance to produce the highest quality product that we can on the market. That typically means that we don't adulterate or add additives to these products as we put them on the market. And that is typically what's being seen as the illicit market vape cartridges are being tainted with additives that aren't approved for vaporization and inhalation, as well as diluting cartridges or using non-botanically derived terpenes and things like that inside of these cartridges in the legal market. So we will hold ourselves, as we do with our cultivation, into our processing to a high standard to make sure that all of our products meet, you know, not only CCC regs, but if we don't want to consume it, we wouldn't sell it. That's typically how I run this business.
That's my
Chase,
question.
Okay. Chase, on page 189, B, lowercase a, sorry, sum of $5,000 annually for the purpose of funding police training and implementing driver and traffic safety enforcement efforts, as well as drug awareness and prevention in schools. So it's right there. And then I also like C, not to take Mary's place, 5,000 annually for the purpose of funding aging adult wellness programs and council on aging efforts.
That's not for me. My parents both had dementia, and I used to deliver Meals on Wheels in Barry until I started to have to work full-time, and then it just screwed up my volunteer schedule. But that's near and dear to my heart, just to really help out the Council of Aging. And your Council of Aging in Sturbridge is so active. I look at the calendar and I'm amazed at how much is being done.
That's
great for
They're not as
Sturbridge.
old as they say they are.
No, it's amazing, all the fitness programs and wellness
it is.
programs.
It is. It's quite active, but that's nice. Mary?
I have this, thank you for letting us, I just want to say the same to you when I went to your retail facility in Fitchburg, as well as your cultivation. You're all very knowledgeable about your product and really professional, so thank you. So a lot of my comments are going to be redundant, so I'll just go quicker through yours because they're going to be exact, and I know you were sitting there, so. Again, like I indicated earlier, the annual community benefit payment, rather than being a flat sum, I would have preferred it tied to a percentage of revenue or profit, rather than 15,000 flat. Because as the business grows, I think it's reasonable that that's tied to what that community benefit payment is. And when you're in your first year or two, you're not going to have the same amount of money, so I think it can benefit you there as well, but I would prefer not the 15, or the greater of 15,000 or .00, whatever you negotiate. Again, I liked the other agreements that had the training for a police officer above and beyond what the annual community benefit payment was. And again, I don't think one officer is enough for the same reasons that I told Farm 353. And I do think that is very tied to Sturbridge and a strong nexus between the business and the kind of concerns Sturbridge has based upon its location to major highways.
Mary, if I could just interject for a second.
Yes.
So the $5,000 that we set aside, the training is free. If it covered, for example, the overtime shift for the officer, it's a 2-day school. Let's say it's $600 for 2 days of overtime for an officer. You're going to get several officers through the A-Ride training, for example, at the $5,000.
Right, I get it. But with the other agreements, they're giving $15,000 for community support, and they're training an officer. They're doing two different things. They're separate in the other agreements. And I know you're not privy to the other agreements, so it's probably difficult for you to be able to determine that. But Farm 353 had $15,000 flat annual fee for the same type of things, public safety. Can't recall the exact verbiage, and then had a separate provision for training a police officer, and that's where I said I don't think training for one is enough. Yours is just part of the 15, so it's actually less. And then in terms of the percentage, the HEAL agreement is the only one that tied that community benefit to a percentage, which I think.
You're just talking about the community benefit, not the charitable contribution?
Correct. Okay. And then some of these other things, again, it's my position that I'd like one of the applicants to agree to a traffic study and base the amount of customers based on what it can reasonably accommodate, or in the alternative, and I don't want to put anybody on the spot tonight because we're not going to decide tonight. I want it put in the host agreement itself rather than a verbal agreement that we won't exceed 600. Because with all due respect, this is all we're going to be able to enforce because it's the four corners of the agreement. So if we, and I'm not saying it would come to that, but if we went to court and said, well, they're saying 1,500, customers a day, it's broke, our town is like one big traffic jam. I can't say, well, at a town meeting, they said this. I guess it would be bad faith, but I'd rather see it in the language of the contract. In terms of how many customers that you will see. And again, everyone's planning on Connecticut, but again, It's not legal to do it, and yet everybody's profits now is tied to something that isn't even legal. It's not legal to take it across state lines. Let's see. I liked your hours of operation, starting at 11 o'clock. I thought that was good. Some of this is redundant. The approval of the manager should be the Board of Selectmen. Yeah, and I thought it was good that you reached out to your neighbors. I had said that earlier about one of the applicants that actually dropped out. They had reached out to the other people in that strip mall, and I'm happy that, because there is always an impact with respect to neighbors, so I was pleased about that. So, yeah. I'm briefer because some of it's the same as I already said. And then the last thing on vaping, I think when I visited your Fitchburg facility, I think you had indicated you're not getting into vaping, or are you?
No, but there's a quarantine order.
I know that.
Yeah.
So nobody can get into it, but what
Right.
percentage of your market, assuming it's lifted, do you anticipate being vaping?
It's growing. It's growing.
Okay, so when the
quickly.
ban is lifted, you will get into vaping?
We will.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
I misunderstood when I visited.
We'll comply with what the CCC allows, basically, our position on that.
Okay.
Okay, I don't really have questions that have just been answered. However, I do appreciate the community support section where you're encouraging people to do business in Sturbridge before they visit you by giving discounts from receipts from stores and restaurants.
And we're checking with so those regulations changed on November 1st, that we're not supposed to be able to give discounts. Our attorney at
Foley Hoag.
Foley Hoag, excuse me, sorry, I should know that. Foley Hoag is checking into it with the CCC, just because these aren't discounts like, hey, let's, buy 4, get 1 free. This is really for community work.
Right, okay. I mean, so that may have to change, though.
It might have to change, but
hopefully it
we're
won't.
really, and Dean and I actually met with your head of tourism, Mr. Filchick, a few weeks ago, because there's so many different opportunities that we could try to
But
work
that-
with the town.
I hope it can stay, because
Well,
that
when I
is
read
a
it,
good
though,
section.
it's kind of like it's similar concept to like a happy hour, because it's a discounted, right? If you come in with a receipt that you went
Yeah.
someplace in town, then you get a discount.
Correct.
Yeah, so I didn't,
That was previously allowed in the 935.
it sounded just a little,
On November 1st, they actually added the word discount. Before that, it wasn't in there.
right,
Yeah.
but it is, in
Now it
essence, a
is.
discount, because, so,
It is, but there's also, part of the section is also, a community coat drive, so you bring in your gently used coat, and you could get a 10% discount on product
Yeah.
at certain times. We really thought we want to be able to do good things.
Yeah,
for the
it's
community.
encouraging other
Right,
businesses.
so that's why our attorney at Foley Hoag is checking in. It's just the CCC isn't always quick on responding to these.
I mean, I know Mary's happy, but I just, I'm sorry, we moved on to you, but I want to go back to that.
No, what
for a
am I
second.
happy about?
That our businesses would be,
yes.
that our businesses would be utilized.
Yeah, no, you had something else?
Well, back to the appointments. There needs to be something, so it seems like at least 2 of the applicants are willing to cap the amount of appointments that they have, and there's got to be some kind of mechanism for us to see to enforce it or to oversee that that's actually happening. So I'd like some kind of language that says, I don't care who the people are, I mean, that's not our concern, but to look at their schedule and say, we're having 10 appointments every 15 minutes, I don't know, but we'd have to have something, some documentation for us to know that it's happening, because we're not going to be standing in front of these businesses and making sure that, they didn't serve 1,000 people that day. We'll know based upon residents.
The data,
See,
We have ID scanning technology that keeps track of the people that come in and the number of people that come in.
Okay, so-
anytime you can come in and the security agent at the door could show you the number of people that were serviced that day.
Yeah, well, or in the alternative language in the contract that just says periodically you supply it to us. Because I'm not going to,
Our
you know, with
sales
all due
system-
respect, we also
police.
have other jobs and stuff. I'm not going to come in and ask to look at your log. But similar to like the financial statement, that you would submit something to us.
Or we could request it whenever.
Correct.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're happy to provide that.
All right.
And it would be a raw number, it wouldn't be names.
No.
I don't care who the names are, but I would,
Confidentiality.
but, well, something that shows the amount of appointments that
Yes.
came in.
Yes.
Not a one email saying, you know, we served 400 today, that,
No, interesting.
Yeah, no names.
So-
yeah, I don't want the names, I just want the format that was used.
You might be surprised who came in.
No. In some cases. Okay.
Or there'll
Anything?
be a sign out there saying 12 billion served.
Oh. The old thing, I remember when it was in the thousands. Okay, anything else from the board? Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
And thank you for listening to the concerns.
A major headache.
Do you?
Yeah. Probably mine coming across a little grumpy. No.
No.
Said I have a major headache. that's
Okay,
why I'm
next
coming
we
across a
have
little grumpy.
Heel.
I've been sick for weeks, so. Oh, you're just getting a headache. That's- We got 18 inches here, we got about a little less. Still,
Okay, good evening.
it's brutal.
Good evening.
Hello, everybody.
Thank you, hello. I feel like I should make a joke about saving the best for last or something. My name is Catherine Browker-Adams, for the record. I'm here on behalf of Heel Inc., and I'm joined by Heel's CEO, Trish Foss, and CFO, Jim Bonacorsi. Unfortunately, the third founder, Alex Oliphant, had a family emergency, so he can't join us, but he'll be here next time. Thank you for the opportunity to provide information about Heel's proposed HCA to the town of Sturbridge. And also thank you for coming out and touring the facility. We appreciate the effort involved in this whole process by the board. As you know, Heel has developed a portion of 660 Main Street as a medical marijuana dispensary. And Heel's very pleased with how the facility turned out. As a component of our submission to the town administrator this fall, we looked back and reflected on the years that we spent first designing, then modifying the design of, and finally constructing the facility in accordance with the feedback and standards that were articulated by the various stakeholders here in town. We did some math and realized that the pursuit of Heel's retail facility has cost the company over $2 million over these past years, including the option and rental costs for the site, construction of the building to the town's specifications, the large part of which was paid for by Heel, although it's a rental, and then applications to the state, design and engineering and legal fees, and the state-of-the-art security, which is up and running there. So I hope that the board would keep Heel's commitment to the town of Sturbridge and its history of working closely with various town officials, including this board, of course, the planning board, the design review committee, the police and fire departments, in mind as it hears the applications for an HCA this evening. You have our proposed HCA in front of you. I have a few responses to the HCA. Of course, we were amenable and expected the 3% impact fee. And I simply wanted to point out to the board that the gross revenue on the one hand and the traffic on the other hand are both directly tied to the number of cash registers in the facility. And unlike the other two groups, Heel has a much more modest scale facility with 6 point of sale stations. Heel was actively discouraged from designing a large sales floor throughout the medical permitting process. So I actually am able to provide you with a traffic study. We had one prepared for the medical submission, and then we updated that. We use a firm called VHB. We updated it and submitted that to the town administrator back in May. And we analyzed what the expected volume to the site would be based on the proposed hours of operation
10 to 7 every day, the 6 point-of-sale stations, and a rough estimate of 10 appointments, 10-minute appointments. I say rough estimate because the expectation is that some appointments will be quicker than others, but I think 10 minutes is a reasonable number. Sorry,
Could you just repeat that, 10
Sure.
10-minute appointments?
No, I said 10 twice by accident.
Oh, okay, okay.
There would be 6 10-minute appointment slots per hour.
Okay, got it.
And then, based on a 9-hour day, that gets us to 324 appointments within a day. A little bit less on Sundays, because the hours of operations would be lower on a Sunday. Now, as you noted, we've proposed 0.25% on an annual basis as a community benefit payment. So the amount of that on an annual basis is, of course, connected to the gross revenue. We have proposed being as flexible as possible on the purpose of this payment, and have suggested purposes such as town beautification, police or fire training or equipment, support of the library or the Council on Aging. And rather than locking that purpose in today, we'd seek to make the target something that we could perhaps discuss with the board on an annual basis to provide you with flexibility for changing priorities. HEAL is fine with the other payments that are enumerated in the agreement. We actually really like the subsidy for the police training, and if it's the feeling on the board that that should be 3 officers as opposed to 1 officer, we're perfectly fine with that. We were also fine with the restrictions on edibles, and in fact anticipated that because a lot of the elements of this HCA mirror the medical HCA, which we already have in place. I'm not going to go through operational protocols because we've talked about that extensively in the past, but I do want to point out that HEAL's landlord has said that HEAL's employees are able to park up at the office parking lot if needed to maximize the availability of on-site parking for its patrons. You know, in terms of timelines, as a practical matter, it's not yet clear whether HEAL would be opening first for medical or adult use. As I explained earlier this year when we came before you, the commissioning and opening of HEAL's medical facility here in Sturbridge has been delayed due to delays relative to the build-out of the cultivation facility. Nothing to do with Sturbridge, because Sturbridge is open and ready to open, I should say. But because it's a vertically integrated operation, we can't sell medical product that we haven't cultivated ourselves. However, we do have a waiver pending before the Cannabis Control Commission to waive that vertical integration requirement. We've recently received some positive feedback from the commission on that waiver request, so we hope that that might be granted in the next couple of months, and we'll be keeping the town administrator informed of that timeline. And then finally, in our discussions with the town administrator and town council, we were advised to submit a proposed HCA for adult use only today, which is what we've done. Because of the 5-year moratorium contained in HEAL's medical HCA and special permit, HEAL has avoided representing that it's seeking to convert from medical to adult use, because we've always wanted to stand by the commitment we made back in 2015. However, we would ask that the board consider voting this evening to lift that 5-year moratorium, as we requested last May. And as a practical matter, I acknowledge that this request is not on tonight's agenda. However, it was on the agenda for the May 6, 2019 meeting. So perhaps if you have to do it under old business, that could be how it's handled. But it's my impression, in reflecting over the task that you have before you, that you really have 3 options for HEAL this evening. You have 3 great companies presenting to you. So the first of the 3 options would be to lift the moratorium and award HEAL one of the 2 adult use HCAs. HEAL would then be free to apply for adult use with the state, amend its existing medical special permit here in town, and have a co-located facility here in town.
The second option would be for the board to vote to award its 2 adult use licenses to CPC and 253, and further vote to lift the 5-year moratorium on Heal, which would free Heal to seek to convert from medical to adult use. We'd still need an HCA to do that. We'd hope that that HCA would be executed in the same timely fashion as the other HCAs, and that Heal would not be subjected to any further delays based on that. And then finally, the third option would be to award the 2 adult use licenses to CPC and 253 and decline to lift the moratorium on Heal, which would mean that Heal would need to wait another 18 months until the moratorium expires to apply for adult use. So I would urge the board not to elect this option, as it would be extraordinarily unfair to sideline Heal in this manner after it has spent years working collaboratively with the town and spent, as I mentioned, over $2 million on this facility. So in terms of the proposed HCA, as I said, we had a dialogue about whether to have 1 HCA for medical and 1 HCA for adult use, or to do 1 global HCA, which would supersede the previous HCA. The determination was to do them separately, but we would, if selected for an adult use HCA, need to amend the medical HCA, 1, to remove the 5-year moratorium, and 2, if it's the board's desire to do so, we'd be willing to do 3% of gross revenue on all sales, medical and adult use. The medical HCA right now provides for a flat payment of $50,000 a year, which we would be living with unless we amended it and changed it.
Okay, now this host agreement here is listed under Heal Sturbridge Inc., right?
Yes.
That's not the one we have for the medical. It's a different entity.
Right. Right. We in discussions with tax advisors and CPAs, we were advised to have 2 separate holding companies for the 2 separate licenses. However, both Heal Sturbridge Inc. and Heal Inc. are controlled by the same parent company. So the operations would be the same.
But they are 2 separate companies.
Yep.
Yes. And that's why there's a separate HCA, because they've decided to not convert Heal at this time.
We are seeking an adult use license for Heal Sturbridge Inc. And if not selected on the options that I described to you, if we have to do, if we're the 3rd business in town, then in order to comply with Sturbridge's zoning, which restricts the issuance of licenses to 2, we probably would have to do it as a conversion. And we'd come back before you with the same exact agreement, except for it would be Heal Inc., not Heal Sturbridge Inc. And, you know, we'd have to lose those protections of having the 2 entities, but so be it. That's what we do. But the first choice is to be one of the 2 groups, keep them clean and separate, make the accountants happy.
Okay, but you could still, if you didn't get one of the 2, you could still convert according to your original agreement.
If the board votes to lift the moratorium, because we've said from day 1 that we won't seek to convert before July 15th, 2021.
But if we don't vote that, it would still be enforced, and you wouldn't be able to convert till 2021, right?
Correct.
Okay, Priscilla, questions, comments?
Actually, she answered quite a few of them. You did the traffic study, so you answered that point. I know you got the percentage like Selectman Dowling had wanted. You're willing to do the officer training. I do like your statement on the desserts. I've said that to you. I think I've said that to you before. I don't have any questions because you have answered them. All my concerns that I raised before, you already addressed. So I'm not going to beat the horse down. I'm done.
Chase?
I want to thank you in your interest in Sturbridge and building that facility here in town, investing your money in us. That's a beautiful facility. I toured it, and you did a great job on it. Just questions. You were the only ones for the local community initiative to do the .0025 of your gross sales. What is your estimated gross sales? I know it's difficult.
So are you looking for those gross sales numbers, or are you looking to quantify the amount of that annual payment?
Quantify the amount of the
Sure.
annual payment.
So we calculated it in several different ways, because we don't know what the gross sales are going to be.
Right.
If Heal just breaks even, that annual payment looks like $11,000 roughly a year. If Heal makes income at twice the level of expenses, which is certainly a hope and an expectation, that payment goes to $16,000 a year. And then if it makes income in the area of 5 times expenses, it's $30,000 a year. And then it just goes up and up. Those are the year one number projections.
Cool. How'd you come up with the 100 customers is kind of what you're thinking a day when you initially open in year one?
Can you just point me to where you're looking for that?
On the summary chart that we have, under you, it says estimated customers per day, year one, 100, year two, 200, year, I'm assuming year three,
It was in your
250.
application
Yeah.
materials to us.
So that was probably in some of your early business planning.
Is that back for medical?
No, it was in
No,
the
it was-
materials you submitted for
It was
this.
in the revenue projections, I guess.
I
I
was
think
just-
it's just a modest start.
Okay.
The
Yeah.
expectation isn't that
So there wasn't.
300 a day would be there on the first day.
Okay, all right, cool. And you do plan on selling the chocolate bars and gummies and things of that nature, edibles?
Yes.
Okay, all right, great, thank you. Those are the questions I have.
Mike?
Again, this would be by appointment if it was adult use. And, you've already done the traffic and all that, so I don't really have to discuss that. It's done. The one thing that I've asked the other two was about the oils for vaping. Would you be producing them from your grow facility? And, if you're producing them to a medical standard, I would presume they'd be the safest available oils. For your adult use, would you keep the same standards for vaping oils as you would for medical?
Yes, you want me to take this? So I think it starts with using no pesticides on the plants, and then the extraction method, we're going to use carbon dioxide. So that is going to completely be removed from the oil, whereas with hydrocarbon extraction, such as ethanol, or something a little more risky, butane, you don't know that you've absolutely got all of that out of the product as an extraction agent. And then no additives, no, only terpenes that are derived from cannabis would go in, not other botanically derived terpenes, no other additives. So it's going to be as pure as possible. And then again, to comply with what the CCC finalizes as, testing for vapes above and beyond what currently is in the regulations.
And same testing standards for your medical product.
Yep,
as
medical
your
and adult use, same product.
Okay, that answers my question there. And I did notice there was the percentage for additional costs and payments that the Selectman Guinness and Selectman Dowling had wanted, and I you know, I like that. I just wanted to express that I like that approach as well as my other co-selectmen.
As we succeed, you will benefit from that.
That's it.
Mary?
All right.
Okay, yes, and thank you for opening up your retail as well as your facility that is still under construction, but you've come a long way, and I can tell you spent a lot of money cleaning up that, I don't want to call it a mill building, but I mean, at one point it was, right?
Yes.
So, you know, this is just a little bit off subject. You were saying what process you were going to use for the oils. So does that eliminate or alleviate the carcinogens that are associated with vaping?
Well, so it starts with the plant and what it's going to uptake out of the soil because it is a weed. So it's going to concentrate. And so you want the cleanest possible soil or substrate that you're going to grow in. You don't want to use pesticides. You want to be careful what you put on it as fertilizer. That will be tested. Then it's going to go and you're going to extract it. And you're going to use an extraction agent, whether it's some sort of hydrocarbon or carbon dioxide. And so that's going to be able to be completely removed from it. And then you're not going to put anything else in it, which I think is part of the issue that we're seeing today.
The additives.
Yeah.
Okay. So a lot of this is redundant, so I don't want to keep going over it with the police officers and that kind of thing. I like that it's a multiplier for your community benefit payment. I went through just some numbers roughly myself, and if they're assuming $5 million in year one in gross sales, that would be like $12,500. I don't know how set you are on that particular percentage, but if they went to .0030 at $5 million in year one, it would be $15,000, which would be the equivalent of what the other two are doing if you, and again, I don't know what you're all hoping for, but I know you're all hoping to be well into the millions if all the news I've looked at is accurate. Yeah, I mean, this article says in the first, from the Associated Press, in the first 2 months of sales in 2019, Massachusetts retailers had $24 million in revenue. So I think a multiplier is a much better, is much more beneficial to address the impacts that it could have on Sturbridge. I'm not going to, go ahead.
I just wanted to clarify something, because we've submitted numerous documents since May, and the financial projections contained in our October submission are the ones that are most recent, and that's why I was a little flummoxed. I think that shows a patient count of 288 patients per day.
Okay.
Which is more recent and more
And what does that
relevant.
equate to in gross sales a year?
Well, I'd have to grab it. I think that's the
Okay.
5 million. Like that's.
Yeah.
that's
Oh,
the
I just assumed that was a basic starting point for all three, 5 million.
Yeah, but we didn't want to project that we were going to have every single appointment, every single 10 minutes around the clock filled in making the projections. That seemed a little bit.
And given the fact that we're not able to advertise as the other groups have raised also, so it's not, we're going to have someone, renting a billboard.
Okay. And would you be willing to put language in the host agreement with respect to the amount of appointments that you would have? I don't want, just something to think about. You don't have to answer me tonight, but that's something that I would like to see. Then I had one other question. Yeah, so we negotiated a host agreement with them, but we didn't lift the moratorium.
That's correct.
Correct.
Okay. So the effect of lifting, let's say we did lift it, what effect does that have on us in terms of
Nothing.
negotiating the host agreement?
You would be, it provides that if you did lift it, you would then negotiate another host agreement,
Right,
including the adult use. So you'd
Correct,
have to
but
come back and do
that's
this.
basically what we already did. I mean, you did negotiate a host agreement with them.
Right, and you could, if they're willing to offer that in exchange for lifting the moratorium, I think that's part of the negotiation, right?
Well, I assume that they negotiated in
But
good
you
faith
gotta-
with the host agreement that,
This host agreement is for a separate company than
I
the one we
understand.
have, than Heal. This is Heal Sturbridge,
I
which is a separate
understand.
company. So if you want to lift the moratorium on Heal, Heal would need an HCA for adult use, which isn't Heal Sturbridge. Now you just cross out Heal Sturbridge and you get the same thing, right? You just cross out the Sturbridge and you put Inc.
So I guess I'm just perplexed. I guess because we were in a position, I think we were possibly entertaining a motion way back on lifting it in order to negotiate with them. And I know you indicated council didn't want us to, so I'm asking, like, what is the downside? I don't.
There is no downside, it's just that this is separate because it's a separate company.
Right.
That's all.
Okay, but Jeff, along those lines, I think there's confusion because people ask me, now, how many licenses can we grant?
Two.
Two. Right, yes. Now, we have.
They have
Yes.
certain legal rights as Heal. We
Yes.
cannot prevent a conversion.
Yes,
Right.
in
So
the
but this-
future.
But this isn't Heal.
No, I know.
Right.
With the agreement we have with Heal,
Right,
they can't convert till 2021.
that's correct.
Okay.
Unless you
But-
lift it.
Unless we lifted it. But right now, they're submitting Heal Sturbridge, Inc.
Right. The only
Okay,
way
so-
you get more than two is if you say no to Heal now.
And let them convert.
And let it convert 18 months from now. That's how you get three. You get two otherwise.
Okay, well, let me
Yes,
tell
no,
you.
that's what I,
Or if you want to pick all three, you can pick all three, it's up to you.
Can I just want to clarify one thing too, which is I suppose when I outlined the three options to the board, I asked for that moratorium to be lifted. The reason I did so is it's not because Heal Sturbridge Inc. is bound by that moratorium. It's because we sat here before you 4 years ago and made a commitment. And I'm not going to sit here, until that moratorium is lifted and ask you to allow Heal, whatever, to do adult use. We just feel as a matter of our relationship with the board, we'd like that to be lifted and everyone to be placed on equal footing. But you're right to point out, as a practical matter, I suppose it doesn't bind Heal Sturbridge Inc., but that's not what we're about, so.
Personally, I'll just say what my opinion is. I think they should be put on the same level playing field as everybody else. I mean, when we negotiated with them, recreational had not passed.
Correct.
It was only medical. We knew it was coming because that's how the flow is. It's 1 year medical, and, that's how the groups move in. And that's why they agreed. But now, it passed in Massachusetts. So I don't understand why we're going to hold them to a different standard than we're holding the other two applicants to.
We're
That's
not.
just my, well, in essence, we are, by not, in my view, we are. The other thing is, and I'll just say this for the,
Can you clarify that? Because we didn't create Heal Sturbridge. They've decided to apply as a different company, not under the same corporate.
well, yes, because they have a moratorium on
They
the other
tried
one.
to get it lifted.
They could have.
They tried to get it lifted.
No. One of the things, when this came up in May, I recommended you wait and
Right.
negotiate with them for an HCA for Heal Inc., right? Which was our expectation, that they would come back as Heal Inc. and ask for a conversion. And you would decide whether or not you're going to allow them to convert, which in effect lifts the moratorium. What we got is a separate company applying for an adult use, which is entirely different than lifting a moratorium on an existing medical marijuana facility. That's why there's differences. It's
I
not
know, but here's
that
the
we're
thing.
trying to treat them differently, it's that they've made separate applications.
But here's the thing. Let's assume, for the sake of argument, that we give Heal one license, okay? The conversion, the effect is going to be that they have one recreational use license.
Right.
And a medical
And a
license.
separate medical HCA.
Right.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I don't
see the difference.
I don't see how that harms Sturbridge in any way. I mean, I don't.
I agree.
see-
I don't- it
Okay,
doesn't.
so the fact that they opened up a different company to do it,
No,
they have the same principles?
Yes.
It comes down to the obligation or the opportunity to convert is Heal Inc. This all relates to what is provided for in Heal Inc. So this is separate than Heal Inc., and that's why it's treated separately. The net effect is the same.
But, well, hold on, so if, let's say we grant them a license, Heal Inc. can't also go and get another, they're not going to have two.
No.
You're not going to have two retail stores
No.
in Sturbridge.
Absolutely not.
Okay, all
But
right,
it's
that's
their
just what I wanted to clarify.
But it's their
as well.
choice for tax purposes to have two separate corporations.
Right, okay.
In the same facility. That's why there's two separate agreements.
Yeah, and again, I mean, I don't personally see the harm in lifting the moratorium.
either.
That's where I'm coming from.
Yep.
The other thing I'm going to say for the record is I haven't decided. I want to see the second draft of these host agreements for sure, and I want to see who's willing to do what. But as an elected official, you know, we're legally required to give 2 licenses. I'm on board with that. But we also have to keep in mind, in Sturbridge, we were one of the towns that voted to legalize cannabis a couple of years ago. So we had to do 2 things. We had to go to a referendum vote on whether we wanted cultivation in retail, and we then had to go to town meeting for, to change the zoning. Now, the communities that voted not in favor of recreational marijuana only had to go to town meeting. They didn't need the referendum vote because they already had the townwide vote, in essence, when marijuana was legalized. That's my understanding of why we had to jump 2 hoops. Now, one hoop's supposed to be easier than the other, but in Sturbridge, it ended up being the opposite, because the referendum, by a few hundred votes, it was 600-something to 400-something, the residents voted, with all due respect to the applicants, to not allow retail, cultivation, or manufacturing. And it wasn't a close vote. It was, again, 600-something to 400-something, and consistent with Westboro and Hopkinton and Northborough and all the other towns that voted it out. Then we went to town meeting, much smaller amount of people showed, 100 people, 200 people. We didn't change the zoning. So we couldn't keep retail out of Sturbridge. We went back to town meeting, same result, because I'm getting a lot of people questioning me, saying, well, we already voted 2 years ago not to have it. And I said, well, legally, we needed to do both. You need to go to town meeting. You didn't, and now we have a legal requirement to get the best professionals that we can in the industry, and I think that the applicants do show that. Having said that, these people are still Sturbridge residents. They're still voters. We still represent them, and there were a lot of people that didn't want any retail here. So I'm not deciding tonight, but I have that in my head as well, in terms of 2 licenses or 3. I don't know if I'm being cognizant and respectful of the majority at referendum wanting 2. Wanting none, wanting none, and then now possibly giving it to 2 others, and then in now a year and a half, they're going to legally have recreational as well. So, I mean, I haven't decided, but that is a big plus in terms of my viewpoint, just like the percentage is a plus. Everybody has different pluses, but that's a plus because it's 2 licenses and not 3, and that, again, it gives a nod to the people. They didn't go to town meeting, but they did go to the ballot and they did vote, and they voted none. So I think that's a big, big plus for Heal, and I'd like to say that for the record, too.
Okay, any, Priscilla?
I'm hoping, and I guess I'm asking this, that we will have an opportunity as a board to discuss the plus and minuses that we see as a board before we make that decision. You know what I mean? Like, tonight, we're kind of back and forth discussion, but I think we all have our pluses and minuses, and I think if we just charted out company, ABC, and then put which one, the pluses and the minuses for each of them, and then I think discuss it like we are right now, I think would be helpful.
I totally agree.
Yeah, that'd be good.
And with the final version of their host agreements in front of us.
That's before that.
Yeah,
so that we can do
Correct.
that, right.
Yeah, I would like that as well.
Chase?
Ultimately, I just want to touch on a point Selectman Dowling made about the number of licenses that we have to give out. And I think she made a great point with the town's vote not wanting this at the ballot, in keeping that in your mind about 2 licenses, because I have strongly gone back and forth about 3 licenses or 2 licenses. And that's a testament to you guys as candidates. I never thought that Sturbridge would have three candidates as qualified and as good as you. So just a kudos that, ultimately, I really feel like in a small town like this, I'd rather have two great locations doing really good than three locations kind of all taking from each other. It's something I'm going back and forth on, but it's just a testament to how good you guys have been, so.
Okay, anything else?
I appreciate the ethical consideration that Heal Inc. has made not to request the lifting of the moratorium, but, it was my expectation, and it's still my expectation. I'd love to see a final draft or a near final draft of what if we lifted the moratorium, what the final host agreement would look like. I haven't had the opportunity to look at that. If I did, I would, I could make a decision whether or not it's in the best interest of the town to lift the moratorium. And I'd love to see what the final, host agreement would look like if it was just Heal Inc. lifting the moratorium as opposed to Heal Inc. Sturbridge getting a second license. I haven't had the opportunity to see that.
And that's not been drafted. That's not been drafted.
Yeah. And, I don't know why it hasn't. That was my expectation for the last 6 months, and
Well,
I
because
guess.
they decided to.
Yeah, they decided to do the
Separated it.
other thing.
Don't we have the original host agreement, and the section in there on the moratorium is not lengthy at all.
I'll distribute the existing host.
So, if you read that, Mike, and if you take out that section, then the rest of the agreement will still be enforced. So,
But some of these other provisions
yeah,
that
well.
we have
well,
here
yeah, no,
would
Heal
not be. so-
Sturbridge Inc. would be this one, which we will see a cleaned-up copy, just like the other two.
So, well,
Are you anticipating that it would look different? I'm not totally following.
if we lifted, if we, in lifting the moratorium, the original agreement would have to be modified.
Yeah, but just that section.
Just that part.
Just that section?
Yeah, just
Yeah,
the section that
that's it.
references the
So,
5-year or whatever it was till
Yeah,
but none
5
of
years.
these, there's other provisions that seem more beneficial in the one agreement I'm looking at now.
Well, the other agreement strictly references medical.
Right.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Right.
So if you take out the moratorium part of that,
Then you go to this.
then you get a new Sturbridge Inc. host agreement, which is this.
Right.
So there'd be still the agreement for
Medical.
medical and a new agreement for
Retail.
recreation.
They're not going to change it's
Right.
not going to be a fundamentally different terms. You're not going to be.
so you'd
comparing apples
have
and
one
oranges.
license with two
Two entities, they're two companies.
two entities?
Yeah,
I find that confusing.
I think I might be able to clarify, if I'm understanding correctly. Two entities, two agreements. We're here today as Heal Sturbridge Inc., asking you for the adult use HCA, the provisions of which I don't think are going to change much, if at all, based on, additional wordsmithing. What we want to do in modifying the medical HCA and voting to lift that moratorium is just clean up the understanding we have with the town. So the medical, Heal Inc.'s medical operation, one cash register, if you will, within the dispensary, that'll be governed by the medical HCA, which will have the moratorium lifted from it. And if the board desires, the annual payment shifted to a revenue percentage. But we don't expect additional changes to the medical HCA. And then we've given you the proposed adult use HCA.
So you can convert, the conversion would be from one entity to two entities? Is that how the conversion would work? I thought the conversion had to be in the same entity for both. Or is there other examples in the state where there's been a conversion and it ended up with two entities?
Sure. The word conversion comes right out of the statute, Chapter 94, which limits the town's ability to control operators who were licensed as of July of 2017. So the specific language says that a town shall not enact zoning which operates to prevent the conversion of an existing medical operator to retail. Conversion in this sense is a little bit of a confusing word because it implies a change and a shift, whereas what's contemplated really by operators is a growth of the scope of the operations. What we've said all along is that provision of the law is there just to prevent towns from acting sort of to block medical operators. It's never been HEAL's intention or desire to weaponize that portion of the statute and come in here and say that we're entitled to convert. So we haven't talked about converting. We've talked about having a co-located facility, which to confuse things has two entities in it, but that's merely, those two entities are there because it's better for liability purposes not to hold those two licenses, the state medical license and the state adult use license, in the same entity. Similarly speaking, the town of Sturbridge has granted HEAL a medical license, and we're now asking for an adult use license. And to keep things clean, we're holding those in different buckets.
Mary, if I recall, and the two of you can help me because we
Yeah,
were
I
all
know,
here,
between
the
us.
three of us were here. If I recall, we would have opened a negotiation as soon as the time came up for them, because at the time, as Selectman Dowling said, it was not allowed, recreational wasn't allowed. We knew that within the 5-year period, it was going to pass. And my understanding is that if they ended up waiting until 2021 back then, that let's say it just passed, or it passed in 2020, then we would have to discuss a new contract based on the retail end of it.
I think that's correct.
Am I right? Yeah. So that still comes back to two again, could be possible. You'd have the contract for the medical, then you'd have it for the retail, the regular retail.
Well, there still would have been two, there still would be two separate host agreements.
Yeah, that's what I'm coming to.
And regardless.
Yeah.
So did we straighten you out, Mike?
It would, so it would have still been two entities and.
Two
okay.
entities, two agreements.
Okay, as long as it's legal, to have convert from one entity into two,
It was negotiated back then, it was legal.
I thought the conversion had to be one entity, from one entity into another single entity. You could have a name change, but it would have to be one facility, one license.
Well, if we were to grant HEAL Sturbridge a license,
Yeah.
HEAL Inc., their medical, is not going to convert to retail too.
Right.
That's right.
That's correct.
Kind of dissipates, I don't know the
It's
correct
two different
term. So we'll have, so regardless, let's say they stayed HEAL Inc., okay? We'd have we'd have the host agreement, which we already have with them for medical, and then they'd negotiate with us to host agreement for recreational. We'd have to negotiate one because under the law, they have a right to, I'll use the word transition to recreational. The only difference now is that they've, I don't know if you're an LLC or a corporation or whatever, they've organized in a different way for their retail license, but HEAL Inc.'s not going to come before us in 2 years and get another license.
Right.
No, we would not.
Okay, so, and maybe we can get that in writing if we have to.
Do we have any opinion from town council on two entities?
Yes, we've discussed that before when they were here in May. She'll be here next time, and you can get clarification again on that.
Yeah, because when she was here in May, though, there was only one entity. Now there's two entities.
Well, they were always able to convert, and they still are.
Yes, no, that,
Right.
yes, that. But I mean, now we have two entities under one roof.
And the town council drafted this, so it's all been washed through the town attorneys.
But let's just get in writing that.
Specifically,
That,
because we've been
that
burned.
if Heel Sturbridge gets a license, that in 2 years, Heel Inc. can't utilize that portion of
I
the
understand what you're asking.
statute and also transition into a retail license by arguing, well, that you gave it to Heel Sturbridge, not Heel Inc. Heel Inc. can convert, because then they would have two licenses.
Well, that's why they're asking for
Can I
the
ask you a
lifting
question,
of
though?
that part.
I just, what's the harm if they do, because it's in the same store?
Well, it wouldn't have to be. They'd have two licenses.
Well, it's location-driven.
Yeah, but that,
It doesn't matter, they could change locations with one. I mean, in my view, I want them, if
I
they get it,
understand,
to
I
be
understand.
entitled to one
Yeah.
license. I don't want to play with the idea of them getting two licenses, Heel Sturbridge, Heel Inc. One of them is in their current location, and the next thing you know, they open up at the other end of town as Heel Inc.
I get it.
That's, because with two separate licenses, they'd be able to do that.
The easiest thing is to just lift the moratorium.
Just get it in
That's the
writing.
easiest thing. Just lift the moratorium and
I
call it a
agree.
day. That's the easiest thing.
And negotiate
That
one.
simplifies it
Yeah,
Which
in
is
my
this.
mind.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, you never know. I mean, we could grant two licenses, and Heel would still be able to go with their original and convert in 2021.
I guess it depends on people, how they view these different
Well,
votes.
but now they're, yeah, so now if they have to stay as two entities in order to negotiate, to be part of players in this.
No, they
So
could have.
what Mary's saying
No,
is,
I'm
we may
saying-
not all be on the same page in wanting two licenses
Right.
versus three.
Oh, correct.
That's what she's saying.
There-
We may not all be on the same page.
If they had come in as Heel Inc., the agreement would have had all the same provisions and said this supersedes all other agreements, including the one that was adopted, blah, 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 blah. And you'd have one. And in effect, you would lift the moratorium through the voiding of the earlier HCA. But that wasn't possible because you have a separate company.
Coming in.
We had actually,
Drafted that.
throughout part of the negotiation process, we had drafted that one global HCA, but we had difficulty defining the entity. And, we had said, well, the name of the company is Heel Inc., and any other, related assigned entities, including Heel Sturbridge Inc., just to define the company once at the beginning of the agreement. But town council was of the opinion, and we're totally fine with this, that it's cleaner to do it as two agreements as opposed to having multiple Heel parties defined in the one agreement. So that's how we got to two agreements.
Okay, so we will get
We will get
copies.
new
and
versions.
Okay.
On behalf of Heel, I'd like to reiterate the request that the board vote to lift the moratorium so
Okay,
that
we
we
will-
may all stand on equal footing.
Okay, we'll take it under consideration when we're discussing everything else. Okay?
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Okay, next on the agenda is older business.
Let's just start.
Priscilla, any old?
No, I just have one for the town administrator. That 179 Main has told you by the end of the month?
By the end of the year.
December?
Yeah, they want to. I mean, it's going to be weather-driven, but that was their intent.
Okay, so if that doesn't happen, then it goes to the spring?
I don't know how much
Assuming.
work they can do during the winter, but we'd encourage them to do as much as they can as soon as they can.
Because they were supposed to do this in the fall.
Which one's 179?
The back end of,
Oh, Brogan's?
yeah. Okay, and I just got calls from residents, and I told them I directed them to you, Jeff. They wanted to be put on an agenda for.
Right.
Yeah, did you get a call?
I did,
don't know if you-
I did, and I invited him out to the 16th.
Oh, okay. Are they
I also
coming-
told him that would probably come up sometime this evening, too, if he wanted to be here.
Is it, are they coming as community, under community, on the community and input, whatever we call it, citizens forum, or are they coming on the agenda?
I said, if you want to come on the agenda, send me something, and I'd send it to Mary for her to put on the
Yeah,
agenda.
because I
Oh, okay.
set the agenda.
She sets the
Okay,
agenda.
because I think they'd be better on the agenda rather than waiting
Yeah.
hours, I think that
I
was.
understand.
And plus, it's discussable, because I think we had that, if we remember way back, we had put an item that, because we were getting so many citizens forms years back, if you two remember, that we said there was a time frame and it wouldn't be discussed anymore, it
Yeah.
would just be put on for another, so it would avoid that.
Yeah, that's
I'll
fine.
pass it on, okay, that's it. then.
And he and I had a conversation about, I mean, I wanted to see the traffic, so from 12:20 Sunday to 1 o'clock Sunday, I was on Farquhar Road.
Did you have a
It
good
was-
time?
It was interesting.
You know, I don't want to get too upset about traffic. Traffic is horrendous everywhere. It is particularly bad in Sturbridge because of the poor design of 84 going into the Mass Pike. That's not going to change. State is not going to fix that up. They supposedly fixed it by taking the tolls down. It didn't work. Is the traffic backed up? Yes. I sat Sunday, and I would say maybe for 3 hours. It was
all of
bumper
that.
to bumper.
All of
Because-
that.
Well, I sat there. Trust me, I didn't move except to go get another Coke. Now, we went out twice Saturday, and we went out twice Sunday, and both times, people politely let us out. I mean, there's no way that you're going to go back to the old days where you're getting 2 cars a minute down.
Well, you wouldn't, but the concern that has been raised, and I'm going to let them speak, because I'm not spokesman for anybody.
Right.
But they couldn't get over the bridge if you went from Blueberry down towards River, you couldn't get over the bridge. And the
Right.
concern is emergency vehicles.
Absolutely.
And Blueberry is always blocked. They don't leave the road open, they just block it. So if you're going into Blueberry or you're coming out, you have nowhere to go.
I understand.
And
You know,
that was
Yeah,
part of the concern.
Part of it's education. I mean, people ought to be able to, I wouldn't think of going down the road.
Well, Waze
knowing the
Waze has
bridge,
sent them, and
you
that's the
know?
problem.
Yeah.
And on
You
my
know?
way back, I did some business at the Shaw's Plaza, and on my way back, a bus was coming.
Yes,
And I stopped the bus driver, and I asked him, "What are you doing?"
yeah.
And he goes, "Well, this is, where they sent me." I said, "Good
GPS
luck."
told me go.
That's the same
Yeah.
way that the
Yeah.
tractor trailers are coming.
Right.
Yeah. I'll tell you, I did not see one tractor trailer Sunday.
Yeah, not Sunday, but
Yeah.
ask the police about the one they stopped at midnight and parked it up on Blueberry Lane
Yeah.
while they checked it out.
Checked it out, yeah. I know there was a police officer down Hall Road because they had the same thing. It was backed up from the beginning of
They
Hall.
had a resident
to the
directing
end,
traffic
you know.
on 131 on Sunday.
Yeah. I
Well,
saw
our
that
town
too.
has changed
Foolish, but-
dramatically
But the
in the
irony-
last 5
Yeah.
years.
We'll
The
talk, and
irony
if there's
is
anything
that
we can
Haynes
do,
Road
we
was
can do, but traffic is traffic.
Well, it would have
You know,
helped
but,
if, if you could turn left more regularly, because that's what was backing it up. You couldn't go left.
Oh, left coming out of Farquhar.
Yeah, coming out of Farquhar.
Left coming out of every place in town is tough, you know. We came out of Farquhar the other night, there was not a car. We were shocked. We stopped and waited anyways. We're so used to it. Just kidding, just kidding.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah, but
Any
we
other-
talked on the phone. That's it.
Chase, old?
I have no old.
Mike, old?
I just wanted to ask the town administrator, the cable television committee, is that active, and do we have full membership on that? Because we've been getting a lot of letters from Charter Communications on changes, and I don't know if some of this might be a little questionable as far as our agreement with Charter or not. I mean, it could be all just fine, but there's a lot of price increases happening and things like that, and I'd like our Cable Television Committee to advise the Board of Selectmen on what's going on with that.
Check the book, first of all membership on committees are listed. I'm not
They're-
sure
it's-
they're
it's-
listed.
It's a non-functioning committee. And I don't know how long it's been dormant, but there's nobody on it.
Well,
I think,
So we'll
I
work
think
to
it only got
recreate it.
activated when we renewed the last contract.
To do the franchise, yeah.
But with all the letters we've been getting on price increases and stuff like that, I could use a little advice on what's going on with cable.
Well, I'll see what the purpose.
I mean, we
and,
had an issue not long ago where a citizen came in and asked some questions about it. And I just saying it might be good to have a little activity on that committee.
If we can revise it.
Just to keep an eye on what's
Just-
going on for us.
Yeah, I'll have to find 5 people.
Just like the other
Yeah.
committees.
But
I'll
if
take
there
a look
was-
at that,
If
though.
there was a disagreement of any kind, that's supposed to come back to us, because that's in the
Yeah.
contract.
Yeah.
Yeah, but
Right.
that's why I'm saying.
To us, yeah.
Yeah, if you have somebody to look at it.
Have them act as an advisory board to us so that we,
Yeah,
because,
but there's no committee that can't advise us.
I just
Check
had a
Mary.
thought about what we were discussing. I guess it's immediate old business. So now that we discussed these draft host agreements, they're public documents, they're public.
The minute I give them to you,
Right.
they will.
So any applicant can look at anybody else's host agreement and et
Absolutely.
cetera. Because I
It's
know
mentioned.
that they were disadvantaged somewhat because I said, I like what's in this one and not in that one. And as,
We
as
let-
they sit there, they don't see the language in front of them and.
The way we handled this was, we wanted certain provisions, traffic, the security, the safety, kind of the generalized criteria. But when it came to what they were bringing to the table, we let them be individuals, because how else were you going to make differentiations between the companies? You have 3 terrific companies, so we wanted them to be as individual as possible, while still providing benefits to the community. So that's why you see those differences.
Oh, I understand, but as I sat here, I realized
I know,
when I said
it's
that's in a
public.
different paragraph, that's in a different paragraph. They were somewhat disadvantaged in terms of knowing.
Right.
Where was this 15,000? Was that part of the police detail? And, they didn't know.
Right.
So,
No, it's public record.
all right, thanks.
Okay, I have no old. New, Priscilla?
No.
Chase?
no?
Mary?
No.
I received an email from a student,
Oh, I'm sorry, I did too. Go ahead.
Max
Yes,
Blue.
and I'm going to meet
And
with
I
him.
said I would bring it to the board.
Good.
It says, "Hello, Selectman Blanchard. I am Maxwell Ballou from Tantascwa Young Democrats. I am emailing you to discuss lowering the voting age for our local elections. We believe this is important for 3 main reasons. 1, lowering the voting age can create lifelong voters and lead to a long-term increase in voter turnout. 2, lowering the voting age can encourage better civics education. 3, we need to reinvigorate participation in democracy, and lowering the voting age is one of these potential solutions. If you are interested in further discussions, please reach out to me at," and he gives it. So I had answered him and told him I would bring it to the board to see if the board would like him to come to a meeting just to explain, I mean, I'm thrilled that they're interested.
I
but-
am meeting with, thank you, I didn't have that in front of me, but I also reached out to him, and we're going to be meeting. I told him we could meet to talk about how to, even if we don't lower the voting age, I don't even know if you can.
I know,
I think that might be by state law, but in any event, how we can improve.
Well, he's asking just for
how we
local
can
elections, but
improve,
it's, I think it's
teenagers'
Involvement.
involvement
Yeah.
in municipal government. And I was going to ask the board, when I'm going to meet him after school next week, if we could invite him in with some of his ideas and that
Yeah,
type of
because
thing.
it's-
Because one of the things I'm going to tell him is you could start by having these young democratic citizens or
Democrats.
young Democrats start coming to our town meetings. Because if they're coming at 15, 16, 17, like I used to drag Matthew, then when they hit 18, they may still come and vote. So I think it'd be nice when we're not
Yeah.
super busy to
No,
have
maybe,
them.
maybe in the spring,
Okay.
because we've got budget time coming up.
It's a lot now.
Holidays and
But he
everything.
was very excited to
Yeah.
meet with me, so.
Yeah. So,
You know, I know the school has done, the Tantascwa.
Well, they do have-
They have done a lot to improve civics education in the last couple of years. And I think that's one thing that we got away from, back, many decades ago, that was a required course in Massachusetts. You had to take a course in civics to graduate from high school. And there has been some state legislation, and also our school committee has been very active, and I think Board of Selectmen should support our school department and try to interact with the civics education program in the high school.
yeah, so we will, Samantha, this is the copy of the letter if we want to put it for April stuff.
Okay.
Stuff.
Make a note, April stuff.
No. Okay. And then the other thing I got is from Maya at the MMA. They have a luncheon on Saturday, and they would like the names of the people who will be attending and a voting member.
I would make a motion that our chairman be the voting member at the Meyer luncheon.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor? Okay. Now, who intends on going? Jeff, do you go?
I would like to go. I
Okay.
have not registered yet, but I intend to.
Yeah, I know, I keep putting that thing
I
there.
intend to go as well. What
The luncheon
weekend
is Saturday, 24th, 25th.
Of January.
Yes.
And,
You go, Mike?
well, I know there's no free lunch, but I'm going.
In this case, well, it's not.
Yeah.
We pay the insurance bills. Chase, are you attending?
Yeah, yep.
Okay, Priscilla?
No.
Okay, so I'll put the names in and I'll mail it. Oh, I'll even use my own stamp. They didn't give us one.
You can give us we'll stamp it. And send it.
I don't mind stamping it. Okay, so, okay, that's it for new business. Okay, correspondence. Michael.
Yeah, we have a letter from the Immigrant Learning Center thanking our town administrator, Jeff Bridges, in particular, for writing the certification or the endorsement of the Learning Center in Malden that we did at our last meeting, I guess. And then we got a letter from Charter Communications dated November 20th, and it's regarding pay-per-view increases and changes in channel locations. Another letter dated November 20th from Charter Communication, changing the lineup for Acorn TV, Shudder, price increases on both of those to $5.99 a month. Urban Movie Channel is going to be $4.99 a month. Sundance Now is going to be $6.99, so it's going to be a la carte. And AMC Premiere is also going to be $4.99 a month. Another letter dated November 18th from Charter Communications, adding Channel 183, or what was Channel 183, to be rebranded from Escape to Court TV. And then finally, a letter from Charter Communications dated November 19th, changing MLB Strike Zone to channels 334 and 845, NFL Red Zone to channels 348 and 761, and the Outdoor Channel to 323 and 769. So that's the correspondence. And I guess we also received from Maya a holiday card that Chair Blanchard received.
Boy, if Charter didn't send us letters, we'd never hear from anybody.
I don't get it. I don't, it's like an iPhone with every day you look at it, there's an update. to
Yeah.
Something.
We'll go with
It's
this.
maddening.
Okay, and Jeff did give us this from the police chief. Everyone got a copy?
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yep. Assessment team. Okay. Let's see.
And that was dated December 2nd.
Could I have my,
Sorry, I gave it to him.
Ooh.
That was
Yeah.
me.
Agenda?
It's right there.
Thank you. Okay, next we have approval of minutes of November 18th. Anyone have any corrections or?
There's gotta be a few, guys.
It's got to get to my.
Well, I gave you
You
a
did.
few,
You
but
already- yeah.
I also told Samantha that our meetings seem to have been growing over the years. We really don't need, she asked, he said, minutes are really supposed to be minimal. The topic, general discussion, if there's an important point, and the votes. We get total conversations. I mean, and we don't need that by,
And I agree, I just don't know where your.
yeah, no.
It takes time to
having-
develop that.
Oh, yeah, no, and I told Samantha I would, come in with maybe this set of meat. It's tough, but
It is.
years ago, they were even worse, remember Priscilla?
Yeah.
20 pages.
They were a good history, though, in one respect. The flip side of that is that they were good history.
Yeah, but we have all archived tapes and stuff, too.
Yeah.
We have, all the reports are saved, so.
Yeah, I would
that-
agree, and then we don't run the risk. Once they get to be longer, then if all the points are made,
Yeah.
you want to put it in, but if they're very brief, then
If you
you
miss
feel
something,
like
that's
it's okay. But
Yeah.
I don't know how else
Yeah.
to say it. Well, I have a couple changes now. I don't know if it's going to make it longer, but.
It's not the point, Mary.
It's not, it's just to clarify. Page 241, second paragraph, Vice Chair Dowling said that the answer given by Chief Ford made sense. Instead of saying, because it is OUI, just say, and noted that OUI and business house checks are down more than 1,000. It wasn't because of that. And then further down in that paragraph, Vice Chair Dowling asked if the department had refused a business or house, add check, due to a staffing shortage. So after the word house, put check, due to a staffing shortage. And that's it.
Okay, anything else, Mike, Chase? Okay, is there a motion to approve as amended?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor? 4 in favor, 1 abstention.
Okay.
Okay, because Priscilla wasn't here. It was at the beginning of her illness.
Second one,
Bob
that was
Amen.
my second time I missed. Missed the first, I actually missed the whole month of November.
Wow. Okay, next we have Citizens Forum. Okay, again, your name and address for the record.
Paula Petruno, 358 New Boston Road. Can I just say something to this last 4 hours I just spent here? I have a
Yes.
question. Is there anything left for the residents to do to make it go from the 2 to the 3 and stop that? Is there anything left? There's no voting left to do that?
No, no.
There isn't. So there's nothing that can be done. It's just totally what you decide now.
Yeah, it's what the board decides.
Well, we're legally required to give 2
Yeah,
licenses
and
at
thank
this
you for
point.
clarifying that.
Yes.
And putting Sturbridge in with the name of the marijuana place, they can do that? Heal Sturbridge?
Oh, sure, we have restaurants that have Sturbridge name in their title, Old Sturbridge Pizza.
Yeah, well, I used to Google Sturbridge and got Old Sturbridge Village, now you'll get, pot places, but, all right, just curious. So, I'm not really
The only
sure,
one that was curious about it, that's why I raised
Yeah.
it during
I mean,
the
'cause-
discussion, that people who voted to have them out, that vote is not binding because of the town meeting, no
Right.
change in zoning.
and you did clarify a lot of that, so
Yeah.
thank you. I don't know really where I stand with this, because it's, his word against my word, but I'm the one that sat across the street from this project for 2 years and watched all of this and took videos and pictures, and he's not, the trucks have stopped, yes, and it's kind of funny how it all stopped when I had the petition going, but he still was excavating on, I don't know the map that he gave you, but I have the new map that I was given by the planning board, and parcel A, do you have that?
I just showed the 2 lots he pulled building permits on and drew a box down at the bottom of the hill.
Okay, and then what about this lot that he was, and then
Well,
he,
he's got building permits on the other lots.
on parcel A?
I don't know what parcel A is. I apologize.
Well, this is from your,
Do you have a number?
Is there a
You
lot
said-
number? It's New Boston Road,
that's the amended copy, this is
parcel A.
the original here,
Where's the other map?
here's the original, and then he amended that lot here.
So this is one of the 2 lots.
Here's the 2 lots right here.
Yeah, these are the 2 he's getting access from
This
off
one's
of.
sold, and these 2 right here. is
These are
where-
the 2 he's excavating down in here.
Correct.
Right.
He's over here. And he's coming in on this road.
Yes.
To go into here to excavate. So is there a permit on here, and there's a permit on here?
He's actually doesn't own that lot anymore. He sold that lot.
The lot on Lane 8?
This one.
Yep, I'm not talking about that one, I'm talking about this lot here on Lane 8.
Mm-hmm. He's
There's a
got
road
a
in
septic
here.
permit on both of those.
So he has a permit on that lot?
Mhm.
And does he have a permit on this annex thing?
Well, this one over here, and I guess we'll hold it up, he doesn't own that one anymore.
Okay, so planning board gave me this,
I understand.
so who owns this?
I don't think that's a separate lot. Or is it?
These people don't own it, I asked them.
Okay.
They said DeBerti owns this.
Well, this is the map we got from planning, so,
Okay, so planning gave that to me, and I live across the street, and that's
Okay.
exactly how the lots are divided.
okay.
And this is where he's excavating, and he's taking going down Lane 8
Mhm.
with the road.
Yep, he
Into
stayed off
this,
the,
Over here,
right.
okay.
Is where he's excavating in the same exact location where the house is going?
Yes.
No, that's my point I'm trying to make.
Is it?
It's where the septic is going.
Okay,
He's building the houses down at the bottom of the hill, and he's excavated for septics. That's what he said, and over the past week, he's been
So he's-
grading the lots.
The grading is in accordance with the approved septic plans?
Yes, yes. I visited with Nelson, he's got septic plans with the health department, and that's what he's doing. That's what I'm saying, this one was one of those ones that didn't, just, it caught everything you could think of in terms of,
nothing, it caught nothing.
That's
I'm
what
the
I'm
one
saying.
that's caught everything.
I understand, and please, it's not my word against yours at all. I don't disagree with you that the trucks
This
are
is
there.
planning board's plan. There's a whole lot here that's no one's even accounting for, that's being worked on. Who owns
If-
that lot?
Check with the assessors, they would know.
Okay. We'll find out.
Who owns parcel A, 46,000 square feet, 119?
Okay. Let me take a picture of
That's
this.
what he's excavating. That was his last parcel he had to go to clean out.
Right, and it's one of these 2 here.
No, it's that parcel that I just gave you the
Okay.
map on that I got from planning board.
You're saying it's different than these 2 lots that we were given right here?
Correct.
Could you identify what lot? so these are the two, which one are you saying?
These are the two lots.
Yeah, and which one are you
These way
saying?
over here.
But he doesn't own that one. The one on the left where it says, the lot on the...
Says complete sold.
Right.
This is his, this was a lot that he sold.
Yeah.
Okay? And then he bought this back from them, so he could excavate this.
Okay, so she's saying you bought it back.
We'll find out.
And that's what the owners told me themselves.
Okay, so see,
All right, we'll find out. Okay.
I mean, I do feel for this resident because,
And he made a wheel, he made a little deal too with the next lot that does have a lot of wetlands on it, which is, he sold that lot because he didn't want to deal with the wetlands, Lot 1R. Can you see that on your map?
The one on the very left?
Yes,
Yes.
that's the one, yep.
And he has a conservation permit on that. He went to Conservation Commission for that.
The new,
Whenever he first bought these from the town.
okay, so he doesn't own them anymore, so the new owner has to go through conservation? No?
If he doesn't own them, yes, they would.
Correct.
It depends if, because...
Rides with the land.
An order of conditions would,
Right,
or
go with the-
would run with the land.
I would think so.
So it would be,
I would like that clarified. Does it or not?
We can ask Conservation.
So he also has another parcel that he bought from Lot 1R that he plans on excavating.
Where's Lot 1R?
The one I just told you about on,
Okay, so he's going to excavate or build a house?
nope, there's a little piece parcel back here he's supposed to be clearing too,
I know, but to what end?
just to take out more soil.
Okay. I can find out.
And then the main thing is, I would like to know about the order of conditions for that lot across the street, because
Across the street.
the Lot 1R.
The one on the left.
Yeah, because that one is, I'm going to go to every conservation meeting on, because those wetlands are going to get protected. And this nonsense is not going to happen again. And I don't understand this either, because according to the Department of Environmental Protection, 310 CMR, it says, stormwater management standards shall apply to the maximum extent practical to the following: housing development and redevelopment projects comprised of detached single-family dwellings on 4 or fewer lots. Why was that? I don't understand how he got exempt from this.
Because this isn't considered a subdivision, and those regulations of... Mike, let me finish. Sturbridge has differentiated between a subdivision and A&Rs in their regulations. Whether that
is a state regulation. It doesn't have...
I understand.
It supersedes the local regulation.
Understand, but that's how it's been considered in Sturbridge forever.
And it's wrong.
It may be, I'm just telling you where it's at.
So how do we change that?
I'll have to meet with the staff and figure out why we do what we do and how it gets changed.
I've brought it to the Conservation Commission before, that they have to require under state regulation a stormwater,
Well,
a
under our-
stormwater study and all of the calculations for an A&R development. They have to.
This is
don't have a
11.43
choice.
acres.
I understand, but I guess that's not been our practice. If that needs to change,
We need to
we can
change
change
the
it.
bylaws.
I don't have any reservation about that. I'm just telling you how it's been applied.
What she just read is right.
Okay?
That's the state regulations, 310 CMR. You just read it.
It's right there.
yeah, because I mean, a local regulation can be more stringent, but it can't be more relaxed.
No, you can't.
You know what I'm saying?
Yes.
We can impose more restriction, but we can't lift a requirement that's a state reg.
I understand.
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, a lot's already been flooded over there, and it abuts South Pond, and there's wetlands. I mean, let's add all that to the picture.
Well, the conservation
Conservation.
agent has been out there, and there's no impact to critical areas or wetlands out there. Stormwater has not left the site. Actually, he had a problem with stormwater getting on the site because it's the bottom of a hill. So there's been no violation other than,
He made the hill.
what?
He made the hill, but I know the property that got flooded by it, so it was down on Lane 8.
We've not had flooding off-site, at least from our inspections on site.
It was on Lane 8, so I know the owner.
Okay. We've talked to the adjacent neighbors, and they're okay with what he's doing, and any impacts to their properties, he's addressed.
Okay, that's wrong, because I have signatures to the adjacent owners. I don't have the 2 signatures, the 1 signature from that house that's on the property, because they told me that they were afraid to sign the petition because DeVerde has not completed his punch list with them or done several other projects that he still has told them that he would finish. That was why they did not sign the petition. So I don't know who you're talking to, but this is what they told me.
Our staff has talked to the adjacent neighbors.
Yeah. Where, it looks a mess, but everything that the town can do, they seem to have been doing. Apparently, we need to check up on a few things. Maybe we need to change regulation or 2. Now, all those people that signed the petition, what did the petition say?
It said noise and safety concerns of this project on New Boston Road.
Selectwoman Downey asked that I get a talk to the town's attorney about this, and I did. And he's familiar with gravel operators that use these particular exclusions to their benefit and never build a house. In this particular instance, this is a house builder. He's built houses on the property, intends to build houses on the property.
2 years.
I understand. So, but he does intend, and he has built houses on the properties. So we would have to prove that what he's done is unnecessary for what he wants to accomplish in the house construction. So we would have to engage engineers to determine that you've excavated more material than you actually needed to build your house where you want it to be. Now, one of the things you're going to have to look at when you, if I bring back these regulations, is you're going to have to require in a building permit, some level of, you're going to have to ask the potential builder, how much excavation are you going to do? How many yards of material do you plan on removing from the site? And then in your excavation permit, you're going to have to change that exclusion to some number, some amount of material that over that limit, you have to get an excavation permit in addition to getting a building permit, or somehow merge the 2, right? So that's what's going to have to happen.
It was so excessive, like to the point where it was so excessive that he was totally raping the land.
Well,
I know where it's going, I know where it went, I know the person that works there, I know all of it.
I've talked to the people who are taking it.
Yeah, I mean, we're doing what we can, and we'll continue to do so.
So what is going to be done?
Checking on the lot that you asked about. I'm checking on the order of conditions from Conservation.
And I'm going to bring back some proposed amended regulations for you to take a look at in relation to the acquiring of a building permit and the excavation licenses.
And even maybe
Pass
just
them through
limiting
the-
the amount of time that they have to excavate.
Pass them through
I
the
mean,
planning
I'm
board.
not in the building, but 2
first.
years sounds really excessive to me. I mean, no, I know, I'm just saying.
He hasn't even built a house yet.
I just, that doesn't seem reasonable to me, that you would excavate for 2 years to build a house.
Do we vote on those rule changes, or does it go to town meeting for a bylaw?
Town meeting has to vote on all bylaws, but it should go through the planning board first.
Yep.
They would be the sponsor of it. I mean, and our job would be to place and support, or place and not support on the warrant.
But just so I can clarify, he stopped on the initial lot that you were upset about, but the fear is that he's going to move next door and do it again right now.
Correct.
Okay.
He still has 2 other lots over there.
Yep.
He's got 7 and 8 on Lane 8.
Yep.
And she's saying he bought back
And he's got that other
That latter
parcel
half
back
of the
there.
one he sold.
His tractor's still on that parcel.
Yeah. And has he given you confirmation that it's, this not just stop for a week and he's gonna start next week?
He's done excavating those 2 lots.
Done, yeah, okay.
Now, I will call him again and get verification on what his plans are for the rest of the parcels he owns and see what he wants to do.
Sounds reasonable.
Yeah, but I do feel it is, because excavating permits are the purview of the Board of Selectmen, the proponent should be the Board of Selectmen. Any input that the planning board had and review
on
it.
excavation.
Yeah.
Because
If you're talking.
We give permits for excavation.
Yeah, so it would be our purview to be the proponent of any modification of that bylaw.
Yeah, and I'll bring those back.
And we
On the
certainly would be
excavation
seeking input from all other boards, including the planning board, conservation commission,
Sure.
all that. But
If
That's your bylaw, yes.
if that's where the change is going to be.
Yeah, I
excavation.
think that's what you're talking about is amendments to our excavation bylaw, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Conjoined with the building permit application that's going to require a builder to give an estimate on what they're actually going to do.
Yeah. Which may involve some zoning, too.
I don't know,
I
but
don't-
it's
I
going to
don't know
involve
if-
some engineering. Yeah.
No, I would, I meant, it might involve, if it's going to affect the building inspector, it might, we might have to change our zoning, general zoning bylaws to say that that in order to get a building permit, you need this, because building permits are usually controlled under the zoning bylaw, where excavation permits are usually controlled under Board of Selectmen's general bylaws.
And we'll review with all the land use boards to make sure
Yeah,
that we've
sure.
covered all the bases.
So it may involve a couple of different areas of our bylaws to cover the whole issue.
Right.
But
Priscilla?
No, I was trying to tell her, don't forget your scarf.
Oh, I apologize. I've got a headache. Are we almost done?
We're done.
Oh, okay.
So I have one more question, because Mary, you didn't answer it correctly, Blanchard, the last time, this was for noise and safety. So one of those was the fact that he was operating the vehicles at 6:40 in the morning, and I asked you if we have a town ordinance, and you said no. How do we get one?
We would have to be a general bylaw, and would have to go to town meeting for a vote.
Okay.
But we do have, under constructions. For logging, but even building permits, subdivisions and everything, there's time limits placed on them.
But if he's not building,
Can't
he's
stop.
just excavating.
Yeah, can't stop before
Well, he's doing it
7.
under a building permit.
Yeah.
So what is that? Do we have times? Do we have a town ordinance for that, or no? For times? I mean, I know, I have other people that are complaining because they live, and they got landscapers starting at condo developments in town at like 10 to 7, so
Well, that's different than someone building a house.
what about just a town ordinance, period? Do we not have one?
We do not have a noise ordinance.
Okay, how do we get one? Because we need one.
Has to go to town meeting. Somebody's got to write it up, somebody's got to sponsor it, it's going to be put on the warrant, and it's got to go to town meeting.
So how do
You
we
got
do
to be able to
that?
enforce it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, you can't just come up with things that,
No, but
You
there
know,
is a process if you get enough signatures.
Okay, and how many?
At annual town meeting, I think they only need 10, right?
Yep.
And so that would be our meeting in June. And at a
Okay.
special town meeting, you need 100 signatures.
Okay.
And I know our town moderator, Mike Caplet,
Yeah, I know
is
Mike.
very willing to help draft the language. I don't want to speak for him, but in the past.
Right, yep.
He has told residents that he will help the language to sound legal and whatever, and
Okay.
sufficiently detailed, if
Just
you
so it
wanted
has
to
a
come up with
chance.
some kind of an ordinance like
but
that.
but there are restrictions on times for certain things, but you can't get to a point where,
Can't do anything.
you know, if Chase wants to cut his lawn at 6:30 in the morning, you can't.
Right.
you
I mean,
know.
it's not the neighborly
Really
thing
can't.
to do, but.
No, but
Right.
he's going out of town.
I'm going to make a motion.
He's going in out of town.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor? Oh, no.
My head is.
I hope your headache's better. I hope you're better,
Thank you.
Priscilla.
Thanks. Hope your headache's better, too.
Done to get